I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati.
All right. Welcome to Sabs podcast. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. So much to discuss today. Oh my God. I want to give a shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Rockfin, Twitter, and Rumble. It has been a crazy 24 hours, and I'm sure you all know why. So this is my final live stream before I go on vacation. So once I'm done with tonight's stream, I will officially be on vacation. So I have a lot to cover. So typically I have a hard stop on Sundays, but because I am going on vacation, tonight's show will last probably a little bit longer because I have a lot to discuss. And particularly the Trump story, I'm going to spend most of my time there. So bear with me, but we'll get through it all. There's just so much to dive into. I want to go ahead and give a shout out to people in the chat first. Shout out to DC, says JFK was shot at too. Greetings, Miguel says peace. Shout out to TD, says yay. Shout out to Rollins Reviews. Hello. I would love to interview you on my channel. You'll have to send me an email. I'll probably respond when I get back from vacation because I'm not answering email when I'm gone. Shout out to Larez. Hi, Sabrina, Eric, Corey, and RBN fam. WTF, right? What didn't make sense to me is how fast they gave the all clear. How'd they know more shooters? Interested in your take. Smash the like. Oh, I'm glad you are because I have a lot to say. Greetings, Casey says, you thought you could get away that easy, silly rabbit. No vacation for you. Literally yesterday, I was just chilling, just minding my own business. And all of a sudden it streams like across my phone, Donald Trump shot. And I was like, what the hell is going on? So I actually considered, jumping on stream and covering this really quick yesterday, but then I said, no, I had other things going on, but then also I said no, because I want more information to come out. So I'm glad I waited. to talk about this today because a lot more details have been revealed that I'm going to get into that you may not have heard other places yet. Shout out to HH says Trump 2024 period. Greetings. Fire. Not Candace. Without having seen it, what do you think she would say? I'm pretty sure she would be against what just happened. I'm pretty sure of that. Shout out to Hannah G. Curious to hear Sabby's take on Trump. Yeah, my take may surprise some people today because I have to say some of the comments that I saw from people on Twitter were really, really sad. And it just showed me that like people have no care in the world for human life. Whether you like someone or not, that doesn't give you the green light to, cheer on someone, having an attempted assassination. That's how I look at it. But we are a partisan country, and that's a big part of it. Shout out to Chicago. Oh, what was that? Oh, hold on. What was that? Oh. Wait, where's the top? Sorry, that was my lipstick. Chicago, I can't think of anything else that would have knocked Biden's mental fitness off the front page, but this did it. Yes, it did. Shout out to Patrick. 2024 will be lit. Sabby. I did say that, didn't I? Oh my God. I didn't think it would be lit like this, but this is crazy. I forgot. I totally did say that. Shout out to Yantra sends a shock, an upside down smile, and cool. There's a lot going on there. Yes. And I'm glad you mentioned this. RFK was denied Secret Service. These people are despicable. And I don't even like RFK, but Blue MAGA has lost their minds. In fact, let me stop equating them to MAGA Trump derangement syndrome. Yeah. I'm going to bring that up later because I think some people may have forgotten about that. Like you saw what just happened to Donald Trump yesterday, and he had Secret Service, and RFK Jr. has been denied Secret Service. Greetings, Zero Joshua. Asimov would be jealous of the real life global script right now. Shout out to Thine. Greetings, Jimmy says, hey, y'all. What's going on, Cognite? I almost feel bad for Sabby. So much news to cover in the last stream before a week-long vacation, and Sunday nights are usually her hard stop, except for tonight, because like I said, it's going to take me a while with the Trump story. So, but yeah, I know. This was not on my bingo card, that's for sure. Shout out to Sebastian says, hey, y'all. Greetings Comic says, greetings from Scotland. Shout out to Volvo says, hey, Cookie. Greetings, Matthew. Sabby is a secret shark fish. Hush. I don't know what that's about. Greetings, Romula says, let's go, Sabby. Shout out to Beyond, sends the eyes. Greetings, P. Smith says, have a beautiful week. Shout out to Asunta, says, hello, Sabby Landers. That's an interesting name, Sabby Landers. Oh, man, that's a something. And greetings, Nightshade says, good afternoon from Cali. I don't want to waste too much time. Let's go ahead and get right into the biz. All right. Let's give a shout out to everyone who is a Sabby patron. Thank you guys so much for your support. I really do appreciate you, fam. Keeping the lights on around me. If you're interested in being a Sabby patron, I have 5 categories here. Ultimate, Sabinators, Sabsters. Don't forget about those Sabbies, Sabbath snacks. And there are also members listed here as well. All of their names are featured here, and you can also see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen there on the ticker. Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate you. Much love to the peeps and much love to the chat on this Sunday, fam. What are we going to talk about? Let's go ahead and share that beautiful thumbnail. All right. Tonight, we are discussing, of course, the shock heard around the world. Donald Trump assassination attempt. And I updated this. I had to update it because it said shot at. I think I was doing like using the TubeBuddy keyword tool and just inputted the title that way. And then I was like, no, we got to change this. Donald Trump assassination attempt we're going to get into that. I do have more details that were released actually right before I went live. So hopefully you'll get a little bit more information than you saw yesterday. And then also we're going to discuss Candace Owens' response to Eminem. And my response to this story may surprise some of you. I have quite some things to say. Quite some things to say. We're also going to discuss Joe Biden's promise to Michigan. Joe Biden had a speech in Michigan about what he plans to accomplish his first 100 days. I'm going to get into that. And last but not least, the third party debate. Yes, there was another third party debate there. That's Chase Oliver, and that is Jill Stein next to him. There's also another gentleman that was there who was cracking me up the entire time. He has an afro. He was like, he has a little fro. But we will get into all of that, and we will also cover the Wisconsin ballot initiatives. Once we finish Wisconsin today, we will be done with the 2023 ballot measure results. When I get back from vacation, we will dive into the 2024 ballot measures so you know what is going to be on your ballot this November. So let's get into that. Man, these are crazy times that we are living in. So much craziness. Thank you for the super chat, Michael. Sabby, where are you going for vacation? I am going back to Montreal. I haven't been there actually since the pandemic started. So I am glad to go back there. And this will be my first time going there in the summer. I usually go in the fall when the Bruins play the Canadians, but the Canadians aren't even really good anymore. So it's kind of like, defeats the purpose. So I will be going there for the summer. So I'm excited to do some of the summer activities in Montreal. And shout out to CM, who's been a member for 3 months. 3 months. Hit the like button. That's right. Let's get that like on. And let's go. Yeah, I love me some Montreal. That's right, Eric. I love me some Montreal. You know, the food, the people, everything. But let's dive in. We're going to get started with our first story here about Joe Biden has made a promise of what he will do his first 100 days in office. And we're going to get into this because I have some laughs and I have some things to debunk. Shout out to Simon Ataba for writing all of this down so that you don't have to. Breaking, your reaction, defiant and upbeat President Biden lays out the first 100 days of his second term. Restore Roe v. Wade, make it law of the land. Sign the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. Pass the Freedom to Vote Act. Expand and strengthen Social Security and Medicare. End medical debt and ensure medical debt can no longer be put on credit reports. Raise the federal minimum wage. Some of these will sound like repeats to you because he's made these promises before. Pass the PRO Act to end union busting, ban assault weapons again, continue leading the world on climate and clean energy, make the child care tax cut permanent. Could have done that the first time, but okay. Ensure no senior pays more than $2,000 a year for prescription drugs starting in 2025. Extend the $35 insulin cap for seniors to all Americans. Make housing more affordable by building 2 million housing units and capping rent increases at 5% a year. End Trump's tax cuts for the very wealthy and corporations. Ensure no one making less than $400,000 pays more in federal taxes. Impose a minimum 25% income tax on billionaires. Generate $500 billion in revenue over 10 years to fund child care, elder care, and reduce the federal deficit. This is the speech here in Michigan, in a state where he really does need to win in order to win the presidential election. Let's get into this.
So today I'm going to start by laying out the first 100 days of my second term. And here it is. The first bill I'm going to introduce will restore Roe v. Wade to make it the law of the land.
Let's pause there, Roe v. Wade. Now, what's the problem with this one? Let's see. When Barack Obama ran, he said it would be the first thing that he would do, and he won and changed his mind and blamed it on Lieberman. Could have easily abolished the filibuster. Dems have kicked this can down the road for quite some time, right? He is president right now. Joe Biden is president right now. So there's just a number of things that could have been done. The Democrats, they delayed this, and I felt like they delayed it on purpose. Let's continue.
I will sign the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and the Freedom to Vote Act.
Why can't you sign it now? Why can't you sign it now? So you see, some of these promises, like the Voting Rights Act, this was a promise that Joe Biden made before, but it hasn't been done. We're
not only going to stop Trump and the MAGA Republicans from cutting Social Security and Medicare, we'll expand and strengthen Social Security and Medicare. And here's how we're going to.
He could have already done that. Social Security and Medicare. Remember, Joe Biden is still on record on video saying that he wanted to get rid of Social Security and Medicare. And people can say, well, he changed over time, whatever it is, what it is. But Joe Biden has been in office all this time. So when he did make certain, changes to healthcare, like the insulin cap, he could have already done this. And that doesn't even go far enough because, as I said before, Joe Biden continues to tell you that if the bill for Medicare for all comes across his desk, he will veto it. Joe Biden doesn't want everyone in this country to have health care. He wants to continue to give you crumbs. So expanding Social Security and expanding Medicare, those are not the same things as implementing Medicare for all. This is important that people need to understand. Now, AOC is saying the same thing, by the way. She's like, I'm going to work with President Biden to expand Medicare. Notice how they've fallen back now. Even some of the squad members, no more Medicare for all. It's expand Medicare. That could have already been done. Let's continue.
To do it. Press always asks how. Listen, press, by making the rich pay their fair share of Social Security. And we're gonna end medical debt. By that I mean we've already made sure medical debt can no longer be put on your credit report.
Could have already done that. And I think that should happen. I think we should end medical debt. I know a lot of people that are in debt, not because of credit cards, but because they had enormous hospital bills that they couldn't pay. Things they didn't really sign up for, but they had emergencies, like things happen and their insurance didn't cover everything. And you can have like a monthly payment plan, but I mean, how much does it cost to have a baby in this country, for example? So here we go again. Something that could have already been done. Let's continue.
You can wipe out medical debt for pennies on the dollar. We're going to raise the federal minimum wage.
Problem. Didn't he promise that last time? And how did that go? Remember, the Senate voted against it. And you know what was really bad about that? I expected Republicans to vote against it. I did not expect Democrats to vote against it. And so that was the other thing, is that there were 8 senators that voted against it. 7 of them were Democrats and 1 was an independent. And of course, the Republicans voted against it. So here is Joe Biden again making another promise to increase the federal minimum wage when it failed last time. I mean, it's disgusting. Like, he's telling you things that you want to hear so that you'll come out and vote for him. But the reality is the reality is Biden is making some of the same mistakes that Bernie Sanders made, where they made all these promises, but they left out that in order to get these things passed, it has to pass in the Senate. So here he is again, lying to people, saying, I'm going to raise the federal minimum wage when he knows that the Senate voted against it last time. It's just stuff like this. Like, you can't make these promises to poor people. You can't make these promises to working class people. A lot of the people in Michigan are working class people.
We're going to pass the PRO Act, ending union busting once and for all. And I'm going to ban assault weapons again. I did it once, I'm going to do it again.
Now, it's interesting that this speech was made before the attempted assassination on Donald Trump, banning the assault weapons.
We're going to keep leading the world. We are. on climate and clean energy. When I signed the American Rescue Plan, the law expanded child care tax credit to cut child poverty in half in America, and it did. Republicans let it expire. I'm going to make child care tax cut permanent.
There he goes again, making promises that he can't fulfill. So let's talk about the child tax credit. Yes, that passed. And then they said, we cut child poverty in half. And I said, you can eliminate all child poverty in this country if we decrease that defense budget. If we stop sending billions of dollars to Ukraine, no child in this country should be hungry. No child in this country should go hungry at all. We are one of the wealthiest countries in the world. It doesn't make any sense. So there's that. The other one that he said, the climate reform. How are you going to become more aggressive about climate reform and you approve the Willow Act? You're still approving new drilling permits when he promised you in 2020 that he wouldn't. So there's a lot of lies that are being told here, ladies and gentlemen, and the crowd that is behind him, they're falling for it. And the reality is a lot of voters will fall for it. A lot of voters aren't going to sit there. They don't have time to do it. Aren't going to sit there and say, wait a minute, didn't he make that promise before? A lot of people are just now tuning into electoral politics. Most people don't tune in until we get closer and closer to the election. And a lot of people haven't looked at, oh, didn't he make these comments before? So just, again, you cannot continue to lie to working class people.
And by the way, it increases economic growth, doesn't increase the deficit. People can work when you have jobs. No, I'm serious. That's the deal. We capped the cost of insulin for seniors at $35, totally cost.
It should have been capped for everyone. It should have been capped for everyone. You know, I mean, it's not just seniors that are diabetic. That was the other thing.
And no senior beginning on 2025 is going to have to pay more than $2,000 a year for all their prescription drugs, including cancer drugs that are $10,000, $12,000, $14,000 a year. And my second term, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make that same plan available for every single American. Again, saving the federal government hundreds of billions of dollars over time. We're going to make housing more affordable. That means taking on corporate greed and getting the rents down. We're going to build 2 million housing units and cap rent increases at 5% a year so corporate landlords can no longer gouge everyone like they're doing.
Let's talk about the housing initiative, because this is where a lot of people, they buy into this when they hear the phrase affordable housing. Affordable housing can mean different things in different places. Affordable housing in Boston also includes the average income of towns in New Hampshire. It's not just the income that's in Boston. It's an entire area, which includes the southern part of New Hampshire. So what happens is that you have people that are in suburban communities where their income, they usually make more money or can afford to make, can afford to buy a house. Their income is now included with the income of people who are working at places like Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts, with people who are, lower income. So that means that the affordable housing price is now not really affordable to a lot of working class people. There are affordable apartments in Boston listed on Boston City website that are qualified and identified as affordable housing, but some of those apartments are like $4,000 a month. I don't know about you, but I can't pay $4,000 a month for an apartment, and I don't even work at Dunkin'. So I want to be very clear, people. Affordable housing is misleading. It's based on the median income of a surrounding area, not just in the city, not just one neighborhood. So we have to get away from this phrase of affordable housing, and we have to guarantee housing for all. That's what we have to do. So you got to be careful with that. Let's continue.
We can do this. We're going to end Trump's tax cuts for the very wealthy and the corporations to make the tax code fair. I kept my commitment. I think a lot of you thought, why is Biden doing what he said?
You could have stopped Trump's tax cuts the entire time that you have been in office. And I said this to people time and time again, that Joe Biden, he continued some of the same tax cuts for wealthy people that Donald Trump did. Now him and Kamala Harris are running around the country telling people, hey, we're going to make the wealthy pay their fair share. You could have done that all along. So guys, do you see this game? You see the game that they play? They've been in office all these years. This could have already been accomplished. So it's just a way to get you to come back out and support them.
Which is, no one making less than $400,000 will pay a penny more in federal taxes. I don't know many people making $400,000. In my neighborhood, no one did. But I wanted to be clear that I wasn't going to be taxing anyone who was a working man or anything close to it. But here's what they're going to do. They're going to make billionaires. We have 1,000 in America since the pandemic. Pay a minimum tax of 25%. You know what? By the way,
that could have already been done.
You know what they pay now? A billionaire's federal tax is 8.2%. Not a joke. I'm not making this up. Because no billionaire should pay a lower tax rate than a teacher, a firefighter, a nurse. It's ridiculous. That one thing alone would generate $500 billion in revenue over the next 10 years, allowing us to do more for child care, elder care, bring down federal deficit, do so much more.
So here's the thing here that I want to mention about the billionaires and all of that jazz, right? So yes, wealthy need to pay their fair share. They've been getting by. Jesus Christ. The fact that you had companies like Netflix and Amazon not paying any taxes is just absolutely ridiculous. That being said, Joe Biden has been in office since 2021. This could have happened already. This could have happened already. James says it here. He only has 5 months left in office. Right. He's not planning on doing any of these things before November. These are the things he's going to do in 2025 in the first 100 days that he says. But he's made some of these promises before. And I just don't want people to fall for this again. Look, I'm not going to be there with you when you go to vote. You're going to be by yourself. But the reality is we have to pay attention to what these candidates say and also what they do. I can understand if Joe Biden is not the incumbent, but he is. So people need to start asking these questions. Why didn't you do these things the entire time that you were in office? Some of the things that he could have done. Another one that I want to add, which I think is easy to do, which he can do by executive order, decriminalize marijuana. He can do that by executive order. Just him. That's an easy one. That's a layup, fam. That seriously, that's me passing you the ball and you doing a layup. Hasn't been done. Now he's been talking about it, but it's just, I don't want people to get their hopes up again and fall for this again. Because when you look at some of these goals that he mentioned here, it's just some of these things are an easy, right? But you need to be careful about promising people that you're going to raise the federal minimum wage when you made that promise last time and it failed because of the Senate. And it wasn't just Republicans that stopped it. I reiterate that. There were Democrats that voted against it, including Coons, who is in Delaware, the credit card state. Surprise, surprise. Things like that. So some of this is hypocritical. Continuing to lead the world on climate and clean energy. You approved drilling. New drilling projects. No, you're not. No, you're not. If you're bombing people, you're not leading the world on climate and energy. We all know this. So I can't. It makes me want to scream. Like, seriously, be careful with the word affordable housing. I'll continue to tell you guys about that. I've interviewed a number of people on this show that have quote unquote affordable housing, and those people are barely making the rent. Barely making the rent. And we talked about the tax cuts and everything as well. I want you to show you something Raquel said. Does Joe Biden understand that a poll showing him beating Trump 50-48 is a poll showing him losing the Electoral College? Listen to this. This is something else that he said in Michigan.
Folks, you probably noticed there's a lot of speculation lately. What's Joe Biden going to do? Is he going to stay in the race? Is he going to drop out? Here's my answer. I am running, and we're going to win. I'm not going to change that. In fact, just today, the Marist poll released a national poll that has me beating Trump 50-48.
So there is this thing called the Electoral College. And I've been telling people the polls that you're seeing, that's the popular vote. Remember, Hillary Clinton was beating Trump with the popular vote, but she lost the Electoral College. These races come down to the swing states. And so what Joe Biden should be paying attention to is how he's polling in the swing states. And I'm going to tell you one thing. Like I said, I'm going on vacation this week. When I get back, I'm going to look at these polls. Because after this assassination attempt on Donald Trump, I would imagine his number is probably going to go through the roof. We'll get to that when I get to that story. But I would imagine that is coming. Now, I want to show you this as well. Something else that Joe Biden needs to be aware of. Shout out to Professor Zinkas. Changes in voter registration. Pennsylvania has plus 9,000 Republicans, negative 240 Democrats, and plus 15,000 independents. And just look at the totals. Democrats are cooked. Let's go down to... So Professor Zinkas posted this before the assassination attempt. So I would imagine that number may change again for Pennsylvania. So we'll go down to Pennsylvania here and you'll see what he's talking about. That's plus 9,035 for Republican, negative 240 for the Democrats, and you have plus over 15,000 registered independents. It's not just Pennsylvania. You can see it happen. I don't know what the hell's going on in Rhode Island, because in Rhode Island, Rhode Island says negative 189 for Republicans and negative 2,796 for Democrats and plus 47. I want to see if there was another state on here that, Jesus Christ. See, guys, this is why you got to pay attention to this. Florida, I still always said was a red state anyway. Colorado, plus not over 900 registered Republicans, and Democrats plus 1,635. Delaware, I don't know what's going on in Delaware either. Iowa's an interesting one. Negative 2,286 Democrats, plus 12,659. So these are the kind of things that Joe Biden should be paying attention to, and maybe he is, and he just doesn't want to believe it. And then there's the donor issue. Donors are pulling away from Joe Biden's campaign. Listen to this.
Breaking this hour, New York Times reporting donors have told the largest pro-Biden super PAC that roughly $90 million in pledges are now frozen if Biden remains at the top of the ticket. But this may only be the beginning. Reports claim a coordinated Democratic rebellion is set to unfold during a brutal 48-hour stretch for Biden. An 18th Democrat lawmaker just called for Biden's exit 90 minutes ago. And now we're learning that President Biden privately met with White House Minority Leader Jeffries after his solo press conference last night, where he made several embarrassing mistakes on the world stage.
So the donors are pulling out, and that's always a big sign because you have to follow the money. So there's that. It's not looking good for Joe Biden. And after yesterday, it especially is not going to look good for the Democrats. Look, I'm not a Democrat or Republican. I'm an independent. I'm an old school Bernie supporter, squad supporter, and they let me down too. So it just, after a while, you just have to follow the money, and then you'll understand why these politicians vote the way that they do, why they sell the American people out, and where we're headed as a country. Very concerning. But that was Joe Biden there in Michigan making promises of his first 100 days in 2025 if he is reelected. A lot of repeats. and a lot of things that I think he cannot accomplish, and some things that I think that he could have already done. Don't fall for it. Let's go to some of the comments here. Thank you for the super chat among friends. Caitlin Johnstone today. The U.S. came close to having 2 presidential candidates with no brain. I saw that. Eric sent me that comment from Caitlin. She's a trip. Thank you for the super chat, Trell. Joe Biden promises to cure cancer. Why does he make promises and know he will not do it? Because some people will fall for it. Miguel, same promises 2.0. Colin, the child tax credit would have decreased poverty on the basis that the minimum wage increase. Yep. Shout out to Cloudness, who's been a member for 3 months. When are we going to stop falling for the banana in the tailpipe? That's a good question. Crystal, that is because R&D always protect the elite class. Too much drama in the Milky Way galaxy. They won't decriminalize Mary Jane because we have a for-profit prison system. Last I heard, 35% of people incarcerated are because of weed. They can't let them go because they are making money off of them. There you go. And don't forget about Joe Biden's crime bills. Thank you for the super chat, American Roughnecks. Don't need to vote for president, but register and vote for initiatives like the Oregon rebate that will give $750 to every Oregonian every year. $3,000 a year for a family of 4. Yeah, those ballot measures, don't sleep on those guys. So I can't wait to get into the 2024s, Viemter, Sabby, as you know, people have been leaving the Democratic Party in Massachusetts for years. Yep. Well, if you have just joined, don't forget to smash that like button, guys. And if you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share. Care Bears. And we're moving on to the next story. I'm doing pretty good on time. There was another third-party presidential debate. Unfortunately, Dr. Cornel West and RFK Jr., they were at the free and equal event, but they did not participate in the debate. When RFK Jr. was asked why he didn't participate, he was asked this from an audience member. He did say that he doesn't want to have to debate his friend. So he, I guess, would consider all of the third party independent candidates to be on the same page as him. He considers them his friends, and he doesn't want to have to debate those people. I call BS on that because Joe Biden, he said also was his friend when he first started running, but he wants to debate him and Donald Trump. So there's that. They get into that. Actually, they kind of started off that way, talking about how do you feel about the other candidates that are not on this stage with you. So we have Chase Oliver, we have Jill Stein. I forget the other gentleman's name, but it'll come back to me. He's a doozy. Wait for this one. But I want to say one thing here as well. Thomas Massey was one of the moderators for this debate. And I was surprised that he decided to stick with that because if you're not aware, Thomas Massey's wife just passed away very recently. So I was surprised that he decided to still do this. But I think this is the first time a congressman has participated as a moderator in a third party debate. So very interesting. Let's go ahead and get into that. How do you feel about these other candidates not being here?
4 candidates, including 2 independents, a Republican and Democrat, declined the invitation to participate this evening. What would you say to the candidates who chose not to debate tonight?
Well, I'll start with the first 2. That'd be the Democrat and the Republican, Trump and Biden. I know you 2 men are afraid to actually be in a debate stage. We're going to argue about something that's more important than your golf score, where you're actually going to have to be coherent and actually have to defend your ideas. And I know that makes you scared. But don't be afraid, because there are other candidates who are willing to get on the stage. You see 3 of them right here. But there are 2 more that were invited to participate in this debate that want to be an independent outside of the 2-party choice for president for you, but didn't take the time to come challenge those ideas on the debate stage. Speeches are great. Speeches are fine. But it's so much better when you can challenge and defend your record and defend your beliefs on a debate stage. That's what the American people want to see. They want to see the passion. They want to see the fire. And if you're not willing to get on a debate stage, I have to question your commitment to actually wanting to be the president of the United States. And so my challenge to the 2 independent candidates and frankly to the Democrat and Republican who aren't here tonight is get here next time. Don't be a coward. Don't practice the hubris that says, this is too beneath me. This is just the B team. The truth is if you're waiting to be on a debate stage that will only include Donald Trump and Joe Biden, unless you're Donald Trump or Joe Biden, you're going to be waiting a long time because the two-party system shuts you out. Each of us on stage recognizes this, and we take every opportunity we can. There's a huge group of people in this room that want to hear from a presidential candidate. Why can't you get on the stage and debate? And that's my challenge to both Robert Kennedy, Cornel West, Donald Trump, and Joe Biden. Get on the stage, defend your ideas. This is the real debate. This is the real debate where people aren't afraid to answer the questions, where the questions aren't being controlled by a corporate media that wants to spread discourse and division amongst this country. This is a real debate where we're going to answer the questions plainly, honestly, and with our own true convictions. And that's something that Donald Trump and Joe Biden can't do anymore. I don't know if it's their advanced age or their inability to tell the truth, but they just can't do it. And Robert Kennedy and Cornel West, you should be on this debate stage with us, uniting the parties together, saying no more to the two-party system. And if you can't do it, you're just as bad as the two-party system. Get on this debate stage, you chicken.
So that is Chase Oliver. He's running with the Libertarian Party. I guess he told them. It's true. Like, everybody should be there on that debate stage. It's very disappointing. This is not the first third-party debate Free and Equal has held. I covered the last one. They're going to have another one in September. So yeah, it's just bullshit to me. It's bullshit. I don't like that. I don't like when people duck from this kind of stuff.
Thank you. Dr. Jill Stein?
Well, I'll agree with all that, and I'll say that one thing about the free and equal debates is that we have very different opinions, but we're all very respectful of each other. We're not tearing each other down as people. We're learning from each other and respecting each other's ideas. That's not something that we hear on the debate stage with the Democrats and the Republicans. We hear them hurling tomatoes at each other and tearing each other down and arguing about their golf scores and ridiculous things like that, distracting from the real problems that the American people need to be talking about. And that's what we're doing on this debate stage tonight. And I would note that the two candidates who are not showing up tonight, the two independents, have never shown up for debates, though one of them pleads for open debates but is not willing to do that himself. And I'm talking about RFK there, who's been pleading with Trump and Biden to debate with him, has even challenged legally, but is not willing to extend that courtesy to his fellow candidates. So this is a problem. The American people, we know, demand open debates, so it really is an affront to voters and to democracy, and it does demonstrate real inability to stand up and defend your ideas. In particular, RFK says that he's a peace candidate, but he very much supports the genocidal war in Gaza. And I would like to ask him, how can you describe yourself as a peace candidate? Are you saying that the war against Gaza is not a war? That is a war. It has the potential to explode like some of the other worst wars, like the war in Ukraine. Both of these are wars that could go nuclear, that are expanding, that are incredibly dangerous right now. And RFK needs to be here to defend his policies. He also claims to be against the big money system, but he's very much a part of that big money system and has a super PAC, which last I heard had about $50 million in it, contributed largely by two people.
One thing I want to add here too, for those who are not aware, RFK Jr. was present at the event. He gave a solo speech. I don't know what that shit was about. I don't know what that was about. Okay. Like, this is not the Jackson 5 and RFK is not Michael. That's not what this is. Where you just like, okay, I'm just, it's all about me, me, me. So he gave a speech at the debate, but he didn't participate in the debate. And I think what Jill said there is correct. He doesn't want to get pressed on those issues.
So I'd like to hear how that is,
very much.
How that is outside of the system.
Appreciate
so yes,
it.
stand up and defend your ideas. Thank you.
Thank you. Randall Terry.
All right, so we'll start with questions. For Bobby Kennedy.
So that's his name, Randall Terry. And yes, he does. He's got like a little fro going on. I don't know what's happening, but this guy was cracking me up.
You made chickens. I saw one right there. You made chickens that you used at the where you wanted to go after Biden and Trump. They wouldn't let you on the stage. So my question to Mr. Kennedy, since he doesn't want to be up here with us, is can we just recycle your chickens? Maybe cut them up and make them into Bobby McChickens. I don't know. All right. For Trump, here's my question. You see that as you've toned your rhetoric down over the last few weeks, your poll numbers have gone up. Do you wish you had learned this lesson sooner? For Cornell West, who does your hair? Help a brother out here, would you?
He does give you Bob Ross vibes, right? Let's paint a happy little cloud. We're going to put a happy little tree over here in the corner.
And then for Biden, Joe, how many fingers am I holding up? Four. Give the creepy whisper. Now to the serious questions. Dr. West, you know the numbers. 12% of American women are African American, but 36% of dead babies by abortion are committed on black women. It's grotesquely out of balance because abortion was always targeted at black people and at minorities. It is black genocide, and Cornel West knows it. And how can you possibly tie it together with other issues?
Let me just comment there for a second, because some people may not realize that, but I think he's referring to, Margaret Sanger when she started Planned Parenthood. I guess the sole focus for her was to try to, wipe out African Americans. So that's why some people are heavily against African American women having abortions. Just FYI.
To Trump, thank you for giving us judges that overturned Roe versus Wade. Thank you. But why did you mock DeSantis? Why did you throw the babies under the bus? Why did you change the party platform? Do you really want to wade through the blood of innocent children to get back into the White House? And to Biden and to Kennedy, my question is very simple. How can you possibly betray your faith? You say that you are Catholic, and yet you have betrayed Jesus Christ. You have betrayed the children. You have betrayed innocent blood. And do you not fear God that you will face him with blood on your hands if you continue down this path?
Thank you.
That's my question.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
It reminds me of a professor I had in undergrad that nobody took seriously.
To clarify, the chickens were funded by the super PAC, by Kennedy, not his campaign at the LNC. And yes, both of them were invited to this debate tonight. I hope that they will be attending our debate this September. So I'm glad that they came and spoke here at Freedom Fest, and I hope they'll be at our 4th debate this September. So
you guys heard that, right? They're going to have another debate in September. So RFK and Cornel West can't pretend like they don't know, or that they, you know what I mean? They know well in advance.
Congressman, the next question is yours.
All right, thank you. How would you fix the inflation crisis affecting cost of living, things like fuel, food, and housing? Dr. Jill Stein, you may go first.
Great. So it's very important when spending money into the economy that money actually create growth in the economy. Because if you're simply throwing in dollars and you have a fixed pot of goods and services, you're going to drive inflation. So throwing money into the economy without actually growing it is not a good thing. So simply providing corporate tax breaks, or for that matter, the military expenditures have been hugely inflationary, and that is now costing us $1 trillion a year in our military budget, yet that is not actually growing the economy. We need to also trim our expenses, and we need to cut the fat from healthcare in particular. In healthcare, we're spending over $4 trillion a year, quite a bit more than on our military budget even, 4 times as much. Yet we know that 1 out of every $3 in healthcare right now is spent basically on bureaucracy and paper pushing. And by moving to a Medicare for all system, we basically trim the waste out of healthcare and Doing that, we can actually save $500 billion a year at the same time that we massively expand healthcare. Because right now, so many Americans, 87 million Americans, do not have health care, either lack it entirely or are inadequately insured, cannot afford their pharmaceuticals, cannot go to a doctor or an emergency room when they're sick. We have a health care crisis, yet we are wasting so many of our health care dollars, spending twice as much in this country per person as we are in any other, in the next biggest spender, actually, around the world. So we can do much better with our healthcare dollars, and we can trim them enormously. Likewise, the fat in the military budget. Is that budget actually making us safer and more secure? No, it's actually impoverishing us and endangering us all around the world while draining $1 trillion. So we will cut the military budget in half and ensure that our dollars are actually used productively.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Randall Terry.
I just want to say we do have a lot of money, but it's just spent in the wrong places. We have a defense budget that's over $860 billion right now. It's ridiculous.
I'm a musician, and when President Biden started pumping hundreds of millions and billions of dollars into people's pockets so that we could sit at home during the manufactured COVID crisis, he saved the largest big box retailer of musical instruments in America. They were in bankruptcy. And everyone got money, and everyone was staying at home, and they went out and bought music instruments, or they had them sent in the mail, and it was great for the music industry, and the price of instruments went through the roof. There was massive inflation because all this money was pumped into the economy. We saw it happen with housing again when all that money was pumped into the economy, and people started saying, I want to get out of some of these really dangerous cities. Here's what I fear.
First of all,
everyone in this
I don't know about you guys, but I didn't get much money from Joe Biden. I got that one stimulus check, which was supposed to be a $2,000 stimulus check, but we were shortchanged. So I don't know, again, the child tax credit and stuff like that didn't apply to me. I don't have children. So that's all I got was that the stimulus check. The student loan, debt cancellation thing, that was really tricky. Some people were able to get it. Some people were not able to get it. But I don't know what he's. I don't know. This guy is a trip.
This room, because of our reading of libertarian and sound economic theory, understands we need to go to real money, not fiat money. We need to get away from fractional reserve banking. We understand these things. The issue is this. We're in uncharted waters in the history of the entire human race. There has never been this much debt, and never has this much debt been tied to fiat currency. So let's say that we did move towards gold-backed currency or towards real precious metals, however that would work, trying to transfer enormous sums of money. We would have a debtor's hell because the opposite of inflation is deflation. We don't know how this is going to end, people. One thing I believe that we need to do, without question, is to have complete, utter, total energy independence. If we had our own oil, we have the greatest reserves in the world. Drill, baby, drill. That is my motto. Put the pipeline in. We should be paying $1.90 a gallon for gas. We should not be slaves to Saudi Arabia and live in a fantasy world that we can somehow put solar panels on our cars and make them drive. Yes, we want to move in that direction ultimately, but that is not where we are today. And today we're being choked to death because of the amount of money we are spending on fuel. So I apologize, I'm about out of time. The answer is, I don't know what we're going to do. And history is going to record that bad people made bad decisions.
Your time's
I don't know. I felt like this guy is running on theory, running on theory. Larez said, LOL, Sab, for real, on professor not taken seriously. Yeah, so I had a professor when I was in undergrad who we just didn't take seriously because he used to drink before class. So he would come to class with a buzz. And one time he came to class and there was a beer stain on his shirt and everything. And we used to be I don't want to say his name on here. We used to be is he for real? And he wouldn't deny it or hide it. He would tell us, he was sorry, I'm a little bit late. I was across the street getting drunk.
I wish I had my gavel that they gave me in Judiciary Committee.
I've seen a lot of gavels in my life. Guilty. Take him to jail.
Chase, was that his rebuttal? Did he just use one? Chase Oliver.
How would we boost the economy and get our economy back on track? The first thing we need to do is stop putting money into the hands of Washington, D.C. central planners who decide these things for us and return the money back to individuals to make decisions for themselves. Because the most powerful market force is the trillions of individual decisions that Americans make each and every day in the marketplace. The worst hindrance to that is central planners in Washington, D.C. deciding where your money needs to go, what it needs to be invested, and picking those winners and losers. So that's what we have to do, is get ourselves out of the way. Get government out of the way of innovation. That's what will boost our economy. Reduce the debt, reduce the deficits, and you have to do that by cutting spending. You can't just cut taxes, because when you cut taxes, you create debts and deficits which drive up inflation and is a hidden tax on every single American. So not only do we have to cut taxes, which I would love, but we have to cut spending, and you do that by being brave enough to grab the third rail of American politics, Social Security and entitlements. We have to get these under control or remove them entirely. Why? Because my generation right now, I'm paying every paycheck I get into a Social Security program that will be completely bankrupt by the time I'm retired and need to retire. It's a better idea to sun down that program to allow individuals to save for themselves and to actually have a real retirement. But in every single facet of our economy, the government does too much, makes too many decisions, and moves our money around. My grandfather used to tell me the government will tax you $1 and give you a dime. That is because of the inefficiency of a government bureaucracy, the red tape, and the bribery that happens at our government level. And it's time for that to stop. How do we boost the economy? We get the government back down to size, where it's small enough to fit in the palm of our hand, and let each and every one of us make the decisions for ourselves, how best to live our lives, spend our money, and contribute to this economy. That will create growth that we have never seen in this country in my lifetime, because we've never seen someone who's brave enough to actually cut spending in my lifetime. And it's time for that to change.
So here's a question I have for everyone, and I'll answer this one as well. Pizza the Hut said, is that a clip-on tie? I don't think so. Like, what? I don't think so. It doesn't look, I don't think so. It looks like the tie is going underneath the collar. So I don't think it's a clip-on. I've seen someone else ask that question too in the chat. But anywho, how do you guys feel about this? It's something that I've been thinking about for quite some time. Imagine if the states governed themselves. So you know how we have the ballot initiative states where you can vote for certain things, like with the ballot and all that kind of jazz. Like you can vote on these questions in the ballot for your state, but not every state is a ballot initiative state. So that's how we legalized marijuana here in Massachusetts years ago. That was a question that was a part of, the election. And it was just one of those questions that we voted yes or no on. So imagine if all the states governed themselves. So imagine if whatever you wanted, you would live in the state that has what you want. I've been thinking about this for a while. Maybe I need to write an article about this to see how people feel about it. Like, for example, say you live in Texas. And say in Texas, like, if you're against, abortion or whatever, then Texas has their laws for that. So if that's where you want to be, that's where you could be. But imagine if you really did want to live in a state that did have more like a socialist program, that did have more like, worker ownership of the job. So like, for example, instead of fighting for unions, like let's say you lived in Massachusetts and our big thing was worker co-ops. So we were giving workers, ownership of production. What if every state could govern itself? How would people feel about that? I was just thinking about what Chase was saying there, and it makes me wonder if sometimes maybe it's the federal government that is the problem. Makes you wonder. It's a clip on. You guys are something else, man. Yikes.
Thank you.
Do we have any rebuttals, expansions on that question before we move to the next one?
Well, I can't resist.
Jill.
I would question the notion that we're all going to fix these problems ourselves in our own individual worlds. How will you fix the problem, for example, of PFAS? which was emitted particularly by the military, but also by corporations, and is now in our water supplies everywhere. It's actually in your blood, it's in your body tissues, and we're now discovering that there are very serious problems here. Are we going to expect suddenly all the manufacturers of PFAS and everybody who's incorporated it in their products and using it on military bases, suddenly it's going to go away? I don't think so. You can pretend there's not a climate crisis, but good luck. What does it mean when it's 120 degrees here in Las Vegas for days on end? I'm sorry. You can pretend that it's the moon or the solar cycle or something, but you know, we've got a number of confluent problems here that really do require that we remove the CO2.
Bill.
And you can, you know, there is a solution to your. Oh, am I over my?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Okay, I could go on a long time about that. Thank you.
I just want
Chase,
to
please.
quickly respond to that. Giving us our own individual agency doesn't mean that we're not going to form ourselves together and solve problems together. Just because I don't want the government to do something doesn't mean that I don't want communities to gather around themselves and do it ourselves.
So that's a good point. I wanted you guys to hear that. Like, again, what if we actually had communities working together? Because I do feel like we don't have real community in this country. I don't feel like we have strong communities like we used to. When my parents talk about the way that they grew up, it seems like everybody in the neighborhood knew each other. You know, if my mom got in trouble, like my grandmother knew before she even got home from school, like things like that, because like people in the community looked out for each other. So I'm thinking about what he's saying here. You know, I'm open. I'm open to ideas.
Now, when it comes to poisoning air and water, I agree with you. We need to have clean air and clean water. When a company poisons a community, they should be able to sue a company without any tort caps. Let a citizen jury bankrupt the polluters. That'll be a free market incentive to make sure it's never happening again. But what we don't want to do is we don't want to put that in the hands of bureaucrats to say, we can only allow this much poison in our water or that much poison in our air. I would rather individuals do this through the judicial system, hold companies accountable, sue them, take them to court, have a citizen jury bankrupt these companies. But when we remove tort caps, because right now, when they pollute, they get a slap on the wrist. And who created those caps on torts? The government. Remove those tort caps and let individuals sue the hell out of these companies and clean up our air and water that way. But we can do so much outside of the realm of government needing to organize it for us. From everything from helping those suffering from addiction, helping those who are less fortunate, helping to provide housing for those who need it. We can do that without the government telling us how to do it.
Thank you, Chase.
I don't know. Landu said he's lying there. Eric says the same thing. Chase's ideas are unserious. Okay.
Anyone else? Randall?
One of the core concepts we're debating is, where was the Savior born? Bethlehem or Washington, D.C.? Because so much of what is crushing us is government regulation, government employees. I feel like I'm having deja vu when President Reagan said, the worst thing you want to hear is, hi, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Some of us are old enough to remember that. Right, exactly. So one of the greatest things that we could do to boost the economy is fire government employees. The biggest employer in the United States of America is the federal government. This is insanity. Let them go into the real world, have a real job, produce some goods and services, and that will boost the economy. It's like the
Let me pause for a second. Here's the problem that you run into with that. Everyone I know that lives in the DC area, with the exception of Colin is a teacher, but everyone I know that lives in the DC area works for the federal government in some way, shape, or form, whether they work at the VA or, you know, because like that is the main employer, like in DC. So if you do eliminate federal jobs, how are all those people that live in where are they going to work? And I don't know if everyone has been to DC, you know, but my family is from that DMV area, the DC, Maryland, Virginia area originally. And I'm thinking about that, like, where are all those people that live in Washington, D.C. or live in like the Silver Springs area in Maryland or the Nova area in Virginia, like Arlington and Alexandria? A lot of those people work for the federal government. So they would have to create new jobs in Washington, D.C. That's what I'm just thinking about here.
Declaration of Independence said, Thomas Jefferson said they've sent large swarms of armies to eat out our substance. Our substance is being eaten out by these massive tax burdens that we pay, and a huge part of it is going to federal payroll. So I agree with everything
Thank you,
Chase said
Randall.
in the end.
So much.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize.
Yeah, it's all right. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to our next question. Global tensions are rising. How would you ensure that our actions promote peace and prevent escalation, that is, towards a nuclear conflict? Rand.
This will be the last one we cover here. You guys can watch the full debate on Free and Equal, but I did want us to get to the foreign policy.
Terry? Louder?
Your mic just
Mic
died.
went out.
You got me there? All right, we all set?
Here,
Did you want to ask the question?
I'll ask the question. How about that?
There you go.
Global tensions are rising. How would you ensure that our actions promote peace and prevent escalation towards a nuclear conflict? Randall Terry.
Well, I think that it was a disaster for us to get in at the level that we did with Ukraine. Ukraine is not a part of NATO. Every time I hear Biden tout NATO and tie it to Ukraine, I'm thinking, well, are you out of your mind? Ukraine is not in NATO, first of all. Discussing whether or not we exit ourselves from the entanglement of NATO is a valid discussion. It is a valid discussion. But I am with President Reagan on this one. Peace through strength. Peace through strength. The way you keep a nuclear war from happening is to make the enemy believe that this would be a disaster for you to attack us. And then full steam ahead with creating an Iron Dome over the United States of America. I believe in the ability to shoot down missiles from the sky and not kill our people in our cities. There you go.
How about we just get rid of nuclear weapons, period?
Chase Sullivan.
Well, I think the first way we start promoting peace is ending the war machine that exists around the world that's backed by the United States taxpayer. I got started in politics being an anti-war activist opposing the Bush wars during the War on Terror years because I saw a war in Iraq that was manipulated by CIA data to bring our troops into harm's way, and it killed thousands of troops, it killed and displaced millions of Iraqis, and now we have tens of thousands of military veterans who have suffered from suicide due to the trauma they suffered from the United States war machine. So as Commander-in-Chief, the first thing I'm going to do is signaling that we're removing our military footprint from every single continent. We are not the world's police. It is not our job to have to fight wars all over the world. It is not our job to exacerbate conflict in the world. In fact, the best way that we can promote peace is through free trade, free markets, and actually engaging in free commerce and voluntary exchange with nations around the world. Because if I'm selling something to you or I'm buying something from you, I don't have a vested interest in shooting at you. And that's the way we change this. Right now, we've been exporting our values around the world with the bomb, the bullet, and the drone. And it has led to further tension against the United States. It will eventually, as Ron Paul and others have said in the past, it will lead to blowback if we continue this. We have to end the war machine and promote peace through actually saying we are not going to be dropping bombs on your kids anymore. That's the first thing that we need to be doing. How many Iraqis are dead? How many people see their kids dying around the world? How many kids have died in Gaza today or in the Ukraine war because the United States has exacerbated the conflict? It is time for us to have a new foreign policy vision, one that is rooted in actual free trade and diplomacy with our neighbors, because that's the way we engage with our neighbors here at home. We engage in commerce and discourse and respect with one another. We don't shoot our neighbors just because we disagree with them. And we need to make that the policy of the United States. No more war, in the war machine, in the death machine all around the world, and support peace.
I agree 100% with that. I'm tired of it. It's too much. Is the tie really a problem? Felipe says, is he wearing his dad's tie? Does the tie look that bad, guys? I don't know. The only time I wore ties is when I worked at the Olive Garden, because all of us had to wear a tie at the Olive Garden. But is the tie really that bad? Is it a bad tie?
Thank you. Dr. Jill Stein.
So we currently have a foreign policy based on militarism. There's a name that the Pentagon gives to its military policy called full spectrum dominance. It's sort of peace through strength taken to the nth degree, which is that the U.S. shall dominate all potential spheres of conflict, all competition across the world in all possible domains, in the sky, on the land, on the sea surface, under the sea, in cyberspace, and so on. And this has led to so many conflicts where we are basically seeking to dominate. And we see now ourselves really on the verge of potentially nuclear conflicts in 3 areas around the world. In Ukraine, where we are fighting a proxy war, which could have been avoided had we simply respected the promise that was made to Gorbachev at the time that Germany reunited. And we said, we're not moving 1 inch to the east. Yep. And it was well known that if we did move 1 inch to the east, we were going to be treading on Russia's border. And I just want to make the point that what Russia is doing around its border is exactly what we did when Russia moved its missiles into Cuba, and we had launched the nuclear missiles. Fortunately, our leaders had the good sense to talk with each other and to use diplomacy. They don't seem to do that now. They seem hell-bent on using basically competition weapons and showing that I'm tougher than you are. And we're now moving up this escalation ladder right now in both Ukraine and in Israel, which is absolutely terrifying. Remember that 1 nuclear-armed submarine contains the equivalent of 5,000 Hiroshima bombs. And we have 14 of these nuclear-armed submarines. And the U.S., unfortunately, dismantled 2 of our major nuclear treaties. It only takes a few of those weapons to trigger nuclear winter. It doesn't matter that it's over there. It affects us all. Just 1 nuclear sub would basically wipe us all out from nuclear winter. We need to back off. We need to abolish nuclear weapons altogether.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, again, that is the free and equal third-party presidential debate with Jill Stein, Terry, what did you tell me his name was? Oh, Randall Terry from the Constitution Party and Chase Oliver from the Libertarian Party. Again, for those just joining, RFK Jr. and Cornel West did not want to be, I guess, a part of this debate. I think Cornel West had a scheduling conflict, but they were there at the event, but they did not want to participate in the debate. You can watch the rest of that on the free and equal channel on YouTube. I think they also have this on Rumble, if I'm not mistaken, where you can watch the full discussion. But I think it's great to, give third party and independent candidates a chance to actually have a full debate. And the last one that they did was pretty awesome too. So there will be another one in September. So stay tuned for that. Should be pretty good. Eric, we can go to part 2 for Type B and C, and I'll go to questions in the chat. Thank you so much for the super sticker, Shale or Chalet. New York Varsity, Sabs, this weekend is wild. You can say that again. TMO, it's time to interview Whitney Webb. I'm working on it. I didn't forget. Miss Mississippi, Planned Parenthood are mainly in the Black neighborhoods. Yep. Thank you, Eric Gray. Always remember that the true libertarians are libertarian socialists. Oh boy, that should be an interesting discussion. Maybe we could have a debate about that one day. Evelyn said, what about people who can't afford to move to a state they wanted to live in? That's a good point, Evelyn. That's a good point. I don't know. I'm going to write something about this one day. Nighthawk, Sabby, we already tried it. It was the Civil War, 1861 to 1865. Someone always wants to be on top. That's a good point. These stupid little fruit flies, man. Greg Bruce says the problem is that in that system, corporations become the government. Ooh. I am going to write about this, though. Eric T. Red, communities gathering together is what the government is supposed to be. Thank you, Sparky. I'm sure that there are competent female members of the Secret Service, but they're definitely not going to assign competent agents, male or female, to Trump's Secret Service detail. We're about to get into that story. Thank you, Baby Ethernet. PFAS is released by every household and many companies, so Chase isn't making any sense. PFAS should be federally and locally detected and regulated. Thank you, Brendan. Some of these ask these cut the government guys what they think of absolute destruction of Argentina's economy, political unrest under Milei. Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you, Sparky. Instead of thanking the Secret Service and law enforcement for their quick action, Trump should have said, thanks for nothing. Oh, just wait. We're getting there. We are getting there. Thank you for this, Sparky. I love you, Sabby. Thank you so much. And thank you, Eric. As a reminder, right libertarians and individuals such as Javier Milei are at best anarcho-capitalists who, by the way, are not anarchists at all. Thank you. Let's get that comment on Rockfin. Based. Thank you for the tip on Rockfin, Roger. Sab, I wonder just how many of these Michiganders know, but they don't need Joe to do that. They can do it themselves through a citizen initiated constitutional amendment. Joe is telling a bunch of Michiganders about codify Roe v. Wade when they already ratified that into the Constitution in Michigan in 2022. That's a good point. Michigan is one of the 20 states that voters do not register under a party. There's a lot of stuff that Joe can do, not through executive order, but by enforcing the current law. That's my vision, Sab. 50 CBI amendment states, once we've have similar policy, then we push it at the national level. As federal law and U.S. constitutional amendment, a system of true self-governance via direct democracy is the ultimate pole. Whether libertarians realize it or not, I know Larry does, that they support voters' ability of self-governance via worker co-ops and CBI. Anything you'd like to see happen at the federal level, we can do at the state level. Yeah, and that's why I'm asking that question too, because I'm thinking to myself, like I'll sit down and write it out. And we'll talk about it. How about that? We'll talk about it. Thank you for the Rumble rant, RB Ham. If you go beyond the pale, whether the assassination was successful or not, the deep state can manipulate the event to further crack down on civil rights, using the crisis as justification. There you go. That's a good point. And let's go ahead and get to that story. Oh, I just got one. Sorry. Thank you, Humongous Shift. Founding fathers wanted states' rights and limited federal government. Thank you for that. Let's get into the Trump story. So yesterday was crazy. Okay. I was just minding my own business. And the next thing I know, I get, alert on my phone that says Donald Trump has been shot at the Pennsylvania rally. We are going to break this down in 3 different parts. One, we're going to talk about what happened, the shooting itself. Then we're going to get into, eyewitness accounts along with that. We're going to talk about the shooter, which has been revealed. That's why I'm glad I didn't cover this the day it happened, because more information has come out. And then I'm going to talk about the media. We're going to talk about the corporate media and the way that they chose to cover this, because I have some things to say. Let's go ahead and get started with how this all initially went down at that rally. So Donald Trump was in Pennsylvania. He was speaking at a rally. And out of nowhere, shots were fired. We're not going to play the shots on here because, we cannot do that, but we will get up into that point and then I'll fast forward.
And that comes right from the government services, comes right out of Border Patrol. Take a look at that. So that arrow is the lowest amount of illegal immigration ever in recorded history into our country. And then the worst president in the history of our country took over. And look what happened to our country.
Okay. And it is, let me move forward. It is not too far after that where the shots rang out. There were multiple shots, not just one. And we're going to get to that point and then we'll go to the podium here. So now you can see this is where he is down. Oh, I didn't want to do that part, of course. Okay, here we go. He is down there. So you'll notice that there's the rush right here to the stage, which also was kind of weird to me because one of the things I do want to get into is the delay from Secret Service. I felt like they weren't fast enough to me, but we'll continue on here first.
Moving his spear. Hold. When you're ready. On you. Ready. Move. Up. Move. Go. Up. Hawkeye's here. Get ready.
Okay, we are watching live at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, where former President Trump was speaking on the stage. There has been some kind of disturbance that clearly sets law enforcement and Secret Service into motion, immediately jumping around the former president in a protective mode. The crowd has been screaming. They are standing by. You can hear some voices there saying, "Are we ready to go? Are we ready to go?" We are looking at President Trump. This does not look good. I'm going to be honest with you. From what we can see right here, it looks like they are attempting to move him out, that he may have been injured.
Okay. So let me just go ahead and comment here, because some of the comments that I've seen online from people, mainly Twitter, etc., there were a number of people that were saying, criticizing the rally members, asking why didn't they run away? Why did they, duck down? For those who are not aware, for those of us that have participated in active shooting drills, I've done this at the university multiple times. That is what we are told to do. We are told to duck down, get down low. And when it is clear and safe, you think it's clear and safe to do so, then you can run. But in active shooter drills, that is what you are trained to do. So just FYI to that. And then what was also really interesting, the commentary. There appears to be a disturbance. It just, the way the media just covered it, but Donald Trump here, they were pulling him up. It seems like he put the fist in the air, I guess, to let people know that he's alive.
He is holding up his arm. He is pumping his fist, but clearly Secret Service wants to get him out of this situation.
And that comes.
Okay. I have a lot to say, so I get comfortable. I have a lot to say. There were a number of people that when they were interviewed, they said that they tried to warn the police and Secret Service that there was a guy on the roof. In fact, if you'll see this video here from Hotspot, newly released footage has multiple people pointing to the shooter and yelling, "He's got a gun," before the shots were fired or Secret Service took any action. So I'm not sure if you guys have seen this video. Again, even with this one, we're not going to play the whole thing, but listen.
And that's a little bit. He's got a gun!
Everybody hear that? He's got a gun. Let me mute this part here. So as you can see, obviously chaos, panic, but people were yelling. These are the rally attendees here, and they were telling you that he's got a gun. So again, something that they could clearly see. So Secret Service should have been able to see this as well. Now, there are a number of people that are saying that this isn't real. I saw a number of people on Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it, that were saying that they don't believe that he was actually shot. Amanda Seals posted a video saying that she thought it was probably fake blood and firecrackers. But I want to show you this photo here, and Haraz shared this. Look at this. A remarkable photo captured by my former White House press corps colleague, Doug Mills. Zoom in right above President Trump's shoulder, and you'll see a bullet flying through the air. So I can see it pretty well, but there's this white line right here in this red circle. So that's the bullet flying through the air. So this could have hit him in the neck, in the back of his head. But as you can see, if we were to trace this with my little cursor here, boop, there's the ear right there. So for the people who were saying that he wasn't shot and this was all fake, and people are saying that on social media, that's ridiculous. And I have to tell you, I've never seen people this just biased, because you don't have to like Donald Trump. I'm not a fan of Donald Trump, but that doesn't mean he wasn't shot. And that's how far people took it. People were taking it that way. It wasn't real. These were firecrackers. They put fake blood out there. So Donald Trump did issue a response. I want to bring this up on the screen here. I wanted to thank the U.S. Secret Service and all of law enforcement for their rapid response on the shooting that just took place in Butler, Pennsylvania. Most importantly, I want to extend my condolences to the family of a person at the rally who was killed, and also to the family of another person that was badly injured. It is incredible that such an act can take place in our country. Nothing is known at this time about the shooter. This was earlier on. I'll give you more information. Who is now dead. I was shot with a bullet that pierced the upper part of my right ear. I knew immediately that something was wrong and that I heard a whizzing sound, shots, and immediately felt the bullet ripping through my skin. Much bleeding took place, so I realized then what was happening. God bless America. So again, the bullet pierced the upper right part of his ear. So again, going back to this picture, if you trace it, you can see the bullet in the ear. So there's that. Let's move on. This guy here, he was one of the attendees at the rally. And I want you to hear what he said happened, because this just proves what I've said over and over again, that police do not prevent crime. And in this particular case, this attempted assassination on Donald Trump, not only did the police try their best not really prevent the crime, but they could have. Listen to what this guy says.
Someone who was here, you weren't inside the event, nope, but you were just outside. Tell us what you saw.
So we had a party here all day. You can see behind us at the Brinkles Farm and Greenhouse here. We had a party, and we all decided, hey, you know, when we hear Trump up there, we're going to walk up through the field, stand by the trees up there under the shade, and watch and listen to the rally. Right? We couldn't see him, but we could hear him. So we walked up. And probably 5 to 7 minutes of Trump speaking, I'm estimating here, I have no idea, you know, but we noticed a guy crawling, bear crawling up the roof of the building beside us, 50 feet away from us. So we're standing there, and, you know, we're pointing at the guy crawling up the roof.
And he had a gun, right?
He had a rifle. We could clearly see him with a rifle.
So here we go. This guy is saying that he gave warning. He was telling them, hey, there's a guy crawling on top of the roof. And you hear what he said? He said he had a rifle. So again, they had time. They had notice. It's not like this just happened out of nowhere and they're like, oh my God, where's it coming from? What is happening? According to this guy, and he's not alone, other witnesses have said this as well, that they tried to tell Secret Service, they tried to tell them there was a guy on top of the roof with a rifle.
Absolutely. We're pointing at him. The police are down there running around on the ground. We're like, hey man, there's a guy on the roof with a rifle. And the police were like, huh, what? You know, like they didn't know what was going on. You know, we're like, hey, right here on the roof, we can see him from right here. We see him. You know, he's crawling. And next thing you know, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, why is Trump still speaking? Why have they not pulled him off the stage? I'm standing there pointing at him for, 2 or 3 minutes. Secret Service is looking at us from the top of the barn. I'm pointing at that roof, just standing there like this. And next thing you know, 5 shots rang out.
So you're certain that the shots came from that guy on the roof?
100%. 100%.
And he was up there for a couple of minutes?
He was up there.
You saw him up there for a couple of minutes?
Absolutely. At least 3 to 4 minutes.
And you were telling the police and the Secret Service?
We were telling the police. We were pointing at them for the Secret Service, who were looking at us from the top of the barn. They were looking at us the whole time when we were standing by that tree.
Could they see
binoculars?
Could they see him?
Probably not, because the roof, the way the slope went, he was behind where they could see. But why is there not Secret Service on all of these roofs here? I mean, this.
Let me pause there for a second. So that's a good question. And mainstream media actually did talk about this, that there was a failure there from Secret Service, but that doesn't take away from what this gentleman is saying right here. If he alerted Secret Service, he alerted the cops and said, there's a guy crawling on the roof with the rifle. And you heard what he said. The cops are just like, la da 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 da. I'm not surprised by that. That does not surprise me. I've said this over and over again. Police don't prevent crime. This isn't the first time that someone has said, well, we told the police that such and such was. Go back to the school shooting in Uvalde, Texas, where it comes to find out that the police were there for over an hour before they decided to go inside. While that kid, he killed all those kids. So that didn't surprise me. Wasn't surprising.
This is not a big place.
Did you see, I mean, obviously everyone, when the shooting started, everyone was very panicked. Did you see what happened to him at all?
Oh yeah, they blew his head off.
Okay, sorry.
Secret Service blew his head off.
Okay, just be careful because we don't quite know who's watching, but you're pretty sure they shot the guy?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay.
Yep.
You saw that happen?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And did you see them go up to him afterwards, or?
They crawled up on the roof. They had their guns pointed at him, make sure he was dead. He was dead, and that was it. It was over.
It's incredibly shocking.
The guy was on the roof right there. You can see the white roof right there.
Did you get a look at him? Could you?
No, other than he was in muted colors, tan type clothing. We saw the rifle flinging around as he was trying to crawl. I mean, we saw the rifle, 100%.
Do you know about guns? Do you know what kind of weapon it was?
Oh, I absolutely know about guns, for sure. No, I mean, it was a rifle of some sort. I wouldn't know, I wasn't close enough to read the label on it, but
sure. But
it was a rifle of some sort. Yeah, absolutely.
So how do you process what you've just seen?
I don't know what to say, man. All I'll tell you is, if I walked up close to there with anything that Secret Service considered a problem, I wouldn't be standing here talking to you right now. But I don't know why a guy who we're standing there pointing out to police and Secret Service is crawling up the roof.
Were you outside the security perimeter?
Yes, right there by that tree. We were outside the security perimeter. But my question is, there's only a few buildings around here. Why is Secret Service not at every building here?
Well, there's a whole bunch of questions I think that are going to...
Let me answer. Let me go ahead and say something about that. I don't know if any of you have ever been to a presidential candidate rally, but I have. I went to Bernie Sanders presidential candidate rally in 2020 at Boston Common. Boston Common was, pretty big for the most part. There were over 10,000 people there. And one thing I can tell you is this. When Bernie Sanders came to Boston, there were police everywhere. Everywhere. All around Boston Common. So nobody was going to be getting to Bernie. So I did find that to be strange as well. Like he said, why weren't they placed all over that area? Because like I said, when Bernie came here for that rally, there were police everywhere. So again, it makes you wonder.
There's a whole bunch of questions.
Yeah.
Trump flag on the horse?
Yes, she was right in front of me. She kept going back and forth right in front of me. Yes.
Tell us about her.
I mean, nice horse, nice lady running with a flag. Seemed very, patriotic.
But what's the significance of her?
No, he asked me if I saw a horse.
Okay. All right, well, listen, I'm sorry you had to witness that. That was a terrible thing. And you should stay safe with your family. And
Yeah. That account there is very important. And I also want to add too, you got to remember this as well, that there was an audience member that was killed. Last I saw, there were 2 that were injured, but someone died. And I saw people online making comments like, oh, too bad the bullet didn't hit the right spots. Or too bad he's alive. Someone died. And that right there just told me, like, there's no value for human life in this country. Just because you dislike someone doesn't mean they deserve to die. So that was sad to me. But let's look at where the Secret Service were, because there's this picture here. The video appears to show Secret Service snipers on the roof facing the direction of the shooter. How could they be up there and not see a man laying on the roof with the gun? So here, you'll see, here they are up here on that roof. So obviously, let me mute this. Right here, And one of them is actually looking in. If you look, he's looking into the rifle there. But they're right there on top of the roof. There's more. I told you we're going to spend some time on this because so much information has come out since then. If you look at this. Oh, Eric, did you mean for me to? Uh-oh. Let me see if they retracted this because, you know, people are funny. Let me go back. I think they tried to pull the, let me see, because this is the most damning information that people need to see. I just want to make sure they did not try to pull this information. Eric, that link I sent you, can you put it back up? Because I think this is at the spot. It's not at the right spot. I think you'll have to let me find the spot. See, when they do these constant updates. Oh, wait a minute. I just want to double check and make sure, guys, because like I said, sometimes they pull information. Let me try it again. Because I do want to, I think everybody needs to see this. Yeah, just go back to that link and open that link again. And pull this up here. Law enforcement officials are working to learn more about the 20-year-old who tried to assassinate former President Donald Trump at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania on Saturday. In a briefing Sunday, FBI officials told reporters they had yet to determine what motivated the shooter to open fire from a nearby rooftop, killing one spectator and critically injuring two others before he was shot dead by Secret Service. The FBI believes the shooter acted alone. That's not the part. Let me open it up. I just want to make sure that they didn't delete it because there was something in this article. Okay, yeah. It's under local police. Just open it again. Right there. Uh-oh. Right there. Don't touch it. Okay. Right here. This is what you need to see. So this is new. Not long before shots rang out, rally-goers noticed a man climbing to the top of a roof of a nearby building and warned local law enforcement, according to two law enforcement officials. So that part right there, they saw him when he was climbing up on the roof. So they told law enforcement when he was climbing. So just FYI. So they had plenty of time. Does everyone get this? They had plenty of time. He wasn't even up there yet. So it goes on to say, one officer climbed to the roof of encountered Crooks. That's his name. We'll get to him in a second. Who pointed his rifle at the officer. I'm going to highlight this. One officer climbed to the top of the roof and encountered Crooks, who pointed his rifle at the officer. The officer retreated down the ladder, and Crooks quickly took a shot towards former President Donald Trump. Let me say this one more time again, ladies and gentlemen. One officer climbed to the roof and encountered Crooks, who pointed his rifle at the officer. The officer then retreated down the ladder. This does not surprise me either. We've heard other stories too, where police officers, once they encountered the suspect, they retreat. It has happened before. It happened at the school shooting at Uvalde. So, ladies and gentlemen, we need to know who that officer was. This is a police officer afraid to do his job. This is why I continue to say, defund the police. He walked away. The officer retreated. Let's go on. The officer retreated down the ladder, and Crooks quickly took a shot toward former President Donald Trump. And that's when the U.S. Secret Service counter snipers shot him, said the officials who spoke to the Associated Press on condition of anonymity to discuss an ongoing investigation. So you have a police officer that retreated. What if Donald Trump was killed? If you can't do your job, we'll go to the next one, because this is a doozy. Shout out to Brian Bertelek for this information, because even Brian is like, what the heck happened here? U.S. Secret Service failures. 1, the huge American flag flying over Trump's head served as the ideal wind flag, indicating for a potential assassin wind speed and direction. Such indicators are used on all military/security firing ranges. Such indicators should have been prohibited by security. Let's go on. 2, all potential positions for an assassin were almost certainly assessed. Video evidence suggests security had snipers pointed in their direction, but apparently access to them left unguarded. If the audience saw the assassin moving into obvious firing position, trained snipers with scopes certainly did. And that was the other thing. If the audience members saw it, then they saw it too. Okay? It is difficult to believe the U.S. Secret Service was so systemically incompetent. And he's pointing to this picture here. Number 1, there's the flag that was waving. And then number 2, that's the picture I showed you before with Secret Service on the roof here. There's that. So these are the things that people need to pay attention to. Again, I have been to presidential candidate rallies before, and they have been heavily guarded. And not just the area where there's the rally, but the roads are blocked off for quite a ways. So the fact that this was able to happen is very telling. Brian goes on to say, the would-be assassin himself acted very unprofessionally, taking up a firing position out in the open, making his mission a guaranteed one-way ticket. The fact that he managed to hit former President Trump means he obviously had experience firing a rifle, but little to no tactical training. If security lapses were intentional, I wouldn't be surprised if he was approached by someone like the FBI, walked through the whole process. Like many subpar terror suspects the FBI has trained, given weapons/explosives to, often arresting them at the last moment, but once in a while accidentally failing to do so before a live attack. Let's go into this. Let's talk about the shooter. So this is who they are identifying as the shooter. His name is Thomas Matthew Crooks. He was 20 years old. 20 years old. And I think to myself, he climbed up on that roof knowing that he was basically risking his own life to try to kill Donald Trump. 20 years old. What would prompt someone to even, we'll get into that. Now, there's something interesting about him. If you look at his record here, his voting status record, according to his voting record, they listed that he was registered as a Republican. But then they also go on to say that apparently he did donate to Act Blue when he was a teenager. I believe it was $15 he donated to Act Blue. So here's a couple of things that could have happened. It could have been that he considered he was a Democrat before and then switched to Republican, or it could have been that, he was a Democrat, switched to a Republican, but wasn't a Trump supporter. It could have been that he registered as a Republican because he lives in Pennsylvania. If I remember correctly, I think Pennsylvania has a closed primary. So I think to vote in the primary, you have to be a part of or registered as one of the political parties. So it could have been that he registered as a Republican to vote in the Pennsylvania primary, but that doesn't mean he voted for Donald Trump. He could have voted for Nikki Haley. He could have voted for Vivek Ramaswamy, anyone else, any of the other Republican candidates that were running. So it doesn't mean, that he was a Trump supporter. Just want to make that part very clear. 20 years old. Now, there was a former classmate that came forward that said that he was a loner in high school or whatever, and he was bullied a lot. And so my whole thing is like, okay, but he didn't attempt to kill the people who bullied him. He attempted to kill President Donald Trump. And there's a little bit more information about the shooter here. This is what we have so far. Who is Thomas Matthew Crooks, the suspected Trump rally shooter? It says Crooks, identified by the FBI as the suspected gunman in the assassination attempt, was shot and killed by Secret Service seconds after he allegedly fired shots toward a stage where Trump was speaking on Saturday. It goes on to say here, he's a resident of Bethel Park, about an hour away from where the shooting occurred. He's a registered Republican who would have been eligible to cast his first presidential vote in November 5th election, in which Trump is challenging Joe Biden. Public records show his father is a registered Republican and his mother is a registered Democrat. FEC filings show that Crook appears to have made a small $15 donation several years ago to a political action committee called Act Blue that raises money for left-leaning and Democrat politicians. The donation was earmarked for Progressive Turnout Project, a national group that rallies Democrats to vote. The groups did not immediately respond to Reuters for comment. It goes on to say that his parents could not immediately be reached for comment. His father, Matthew, 53, told CNN that he was trying to figure out what happened and would wait until he talked to law enforcement before speaking about his son. Goes on to say in the family's hometown, one of Thomas Crook's former classmates went on to say the suspect did not show any particular interest in politics. Rather, his interest centered on building computers and playing games. 20-year-old classmate who asked not to be identified for this interview. They also go on to say that he was super smart. They said that nothing crazy ever came up in conversation. Says he received a $500 Star Award from National Math and Science Initiative, etc. So smart kid. And was willing to risk his life just to. So here was one thing that was a little weird. This kid was in a BlackRock ad. Now, it doesn't mean that that was his choosing, but it's a part of the discussion that I think should be explained. Thomas Crooks, 20-year-old shooter that attempted to assassinate Donald Trump, was featured in a BlackRock ad. BlackRock, the company that was taking everyone's homes, buying up all these single family homes. Here's the ad.
My name is Brian DeLallo. I teach AP and honors economics in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Financial well-being to me is knowing that I can be free to do the things that I love to do. I hope when I retire someday, they say that guy made this place a special place to come to school.
That's him right there. They're alleging that this is the shooter in the BlackRock ad. And I've talked about BlackRock on this show before. I mean, if you want to talk about wealthy companies, a lot of people bring up Walmart. They bring up the Waltons family. The Waltons have nothing on the owner of BlackRock. BlackRock's the company that a lot of people don't talk about because they try to be somewhat quiet and try to be somewhat hidden. But he's in this ad. I don't know if he chose to be in this ad. I don't know. We don't know. But he's in a BlackRock ad. And I can't leave that out of the conversation.
And gave as much as he could to help the community.
BlackRock also owns some pensions as well. So that's important. Eric, we can go to part 3. Because I haven't gotten to the media yet, how I feel about the way the media responded yesterday. It made me really sick. And they should all be ashamed of themselves. So the media. There's a Trump supporter here who is yelling at the media, and he tells them it's their fault. Watch this.
You remember what you caused. This is your fault. You. This is your fault. Every last one of you. This is your fault. It is their fault. This is your fault. Hey, easy. This is your fault. I got you. Easy. Thank you, sir. Your fault. This is your fault. You caused this. You remember what you caused. This is your fault. You. This is your.
And I got to say something about the media, because I had to ask myself over and over again, what would make this kid was very intelligent, 20 years old, apparently was living with his parents. Like, what would make him want to risk his life to try to kill a presidential candidate and throw his whole life away? And I don't know if there was any type of mental illness there or whatever. We don't know. But I do know this. The media sure as hell has been very divisive over the past couple of years. Starting with when Donald Trump ran for office, the media has been dividing this country for the past couple of years. Some of the things that corporate media has said about Donald Trump are true, but some of the things that they said were exaggerated and pretty much damn right hateful. And I've said this over and over again. If you want to beat Donald Trump, you have to beat him at the ballot box. You don't beat him by trying to hold him up in all these different, lawsuits, hoping that he'll go to jail, which he could still run from jail, by the way. Hello, Eugene Debs. You don't try to beat him that way. You don't try to beat him by killing him. This is insane. But a bunch of you, CNN, MSNBC, Rachel Maddow, The View, Whoopi, Sunny, all those women that sit around at that table. You created so much division in the country because you hate and hate. You said things like, he's an existential threat. Do you know what that means? Corporate media said Donald Trump was Hitler. And they would always point out the racial issues with Donald Trump, but they didn't want to point out the racial issues with Joe Biden, where you had Joe Biden who actually sat up there and implemented legislation that targeted Black men, multiple crime bills that took Black men out of the home. They were never fair. They were always biased over and over and over again. Corporate media, you guys did this. And I'm pointing fingers at all of them. Fox News, you biased too. You're biased for the Republicans. You weren't 100% honest about the Democrats. You weren't 100% honest about Donald Trump either. All of you guys are guilty with this shit. Because I couldn't go the past couple of years, I couldn't turn on the damn TV without hearing something about, oh my God, if we get Donald Trump again, it's just going to be, he's going to destroy this country. Are you crazy? We have to protect democracy. We don't have any damn democracy in this country. How do you have democracy when you guys remove candidates off the ballot because they're not the ones that the establishment chose? How do you have democracy when candidates have collected all the signatures plus more that they need to be on the ballot, and the DNC comes in and says, nope, sorry, we're going to sue you because we want Joe Biden to win? That's democracy. It's democracy when you can't vote for the people you want to vote for. The media. That's what's ripped this country apart. I have a lot of disagreements with Donald Trump. I got a lot of disagreements with Joe Biden. But the narrative, the division has come from corporate media. Even when it comes to the protest, the media tries to be divisive. They stir up all this stuff. And then the people who killed me, who said he was an existential threat. Now you got Joe Biden, Barack Obama, all these politicians that say violence has no place in this country. Tweeting out on X, we condemn the violence as y'all killing people in Gaza, as you're literally killing kids in Gaza. And you're going to say violence has no place in this country. This country has always been violent. You dropping bombs all over the world, but you say violence has no place. You want to talk about we need to protect our democracy that we don't even really have. We don't have a true democracy. A lot of these people were chosen. If we had a true democracy, the DNC fraud suit wouldn't exist. How you get super delegates to remove people from certain states just because you paid them to do so when they want all the damn votes, okay? The media. So now you guys need to sit back and take a look at yourself. Rachel Maddow, Abby Phillips, all of you, you need to sit back and take a look at yourself. Because the narrative came from you and people like Keith Olbermann. Keith Olbermann, shout out to Primo Radical. I understand that Keith Olbermann is one of the least sane people on the internet, but how many douchey liberals have spent most of the past decade effectively expressing the same sentiment? This is what Keith Olbermann said. The Biden-Harris account on Twitter said Trump says he's been treated worse than Abraham Lincoln, who was assassinated. Keith Olbermann responded with, "There's always the hope." How low can you be? Whether you like someone, I don't wish death upon anyone. Anyone. This guy is a media commentator. He's on the news. The media, very divisive. And then I sat there yesterday on the couch, and I watched article after article with these lazy, ridiculous headlines, which they should have been smacked in the face for. This is ridiculous. I'm watching corporate media fail to label this as assassination attempt. Look at the headlines. Look at the headlines. This was NBC. Trump says he was shot in the ear during rally. Authorities say a shooter is dead. One spectator from the campaign rally in Pennsylvania is dead. 2 are critically injured, the Secret Service said. Look at the headline. Trump says he was shot in the ear during rally. Lazy. If this would have been Joe Biden, I'm pretty sure they would have phrased that differently. Do you see how the partisan politics affects different media outlets? There's another one. CNN. Jesus Christ. Trump injured in shooting at Pennsylvania rally. Ladies and gentlemen, this was 10:44 p.m. Eastern time. That was last night. Trump injured in shooting at Pennsylvania rally. They were refusing to call it an assassination attempt. That's laziness, fam. And you have to ask yourself, if it was Joe Biden, would that headline? No, it would be a totally different headline. Fox got the headline right. After apparent assassination attempt. But then you got it again, Republican. They got it right. The liberal networks did not. And they wonder why people don't watch their stupid shit. You wonder why your ratings are so low. Because you lie. You guys sit there and lie for 24 hours. CNN, you're always 24 hours, always news, and you just lie for 24 hours. And it's not just this. Whether it's about war, y'all lied about Russia and Ukraine. You've been lying about Gaza. You've been protecting Israel. You lied about this. Some of these people are paid thousands of dollars. Some of these commentators on CNN and MSNBC and Fox News, these people are millionaires to lie. What does this do for a 2024 election? I told you guys before, I thought Trump would win based on the polls in the swing states. I'm pretty sure they just handed him the election now. So I hope the liberal media, I hope you guys are all happy. Joe Biden, I hope you're happy. I hope you guys are all happy. This right here just handed Donald Trump the election. Hell, Donald Trump probably don't even have to try. He can probably just go back home, take a nap for the next couple of months, and he'll still probably win because now Donald Trump is seen as a martyr again. And I'm telling you what the streets are already saying. People in these streets are like, first, they tried to take this man down in the court system through multiple cases. Now they're trying to kill him. What do you do? What do you say? 50 Cent right now, he was performing his song Many Men in honor of Donald Trump with the poster of his notorious Get Rich or Die Trying album with Trump's face on his body. So let me keep this muted because, I want 50 to come for me. But look, there's Donald Trump's face on 50 Cent's body. Donald Trump has become even more of a martyr now. First, he was a martyr because they were trying to take him down through the legal system. But now they actually tried to kill this man. I don't think this kid was acting alone. I'm sorry. We'll have to get more information. FBI is calling an investigation, but I don't think this kid I'd be surprised. 20 years old, and he bypassed Secret Service. Climbed right up the ladder. Nobody stopped him. No one questioned him. Joe Biden issued a response.
Thoroughly briefed by all the agencies in the federal government as to the situation, based on what we know now. I have tried to get a hold of Donald. He's with his doctors. Apparently he's doing well. I plan on talking to him shortly, I hope, when I get back to the telephone. Look, there's no place in America for this kind of violence. It's sick. It's sick. It's one of the reasons why we have to unite this country. We cannot allow for this to be happening. We cannot be like this. We cannot condone this.
But this is who we are. This is who we are as a country. Like I said, there was another airstrike. Israel implemented another airstrike yesterday. Another one. More kids killed. Which Joe Biden has been funding and aiding. They can't do it without us. So don't say this is not who we are. This has always been a violent country.
So, and I want to thank the Secret Service and all the agencies, including the state agencies that have been engaged in making sure that the people who, and we have more detail to come relative to other people maybe injured in the audience. I don't have all that detail. We'll make that available to you. I may be able to come back a little later tonight, but we'll put out a statement if I'm not able to if it's not convenient for you all. But the bottom line is, the Trump rally was a rally that he should have been able to be conducted peacefully without any problem. But the idea that there's political violence or violence in America like this is just unheard of. It's just not appropriate. And everybody must condemn it. Everybody. I'll keep you informed, and if I am able to speak to Donald, I'll let you know that as well. But so far, it appears he's doing well, number one. Number two, that there's thoroughly investigating what happened to anyone else in the audience. We have some reports, but not final reports. And every agency in the federal government, I'm going back to my phone to speak with the federal agencies that are being put together again to give me an updated briefing. Has anything happened? They learned any more in the last couple hours. So thank you very much, and I hope I get to speak to them tonight, and I'll get back to you if I do, okay?
Mr. President, do you think it was an assassination attempt?
I don't know enough to, I have an opinion, but I don't have any facts. So.
See that right there? Wasn't ready to call it an assassination attempt. Let's see. Someone shoots at you, hits ear. They were trying to take your ass out. You're a former president. You are now a presidential candidate. Yes, that is an assassination attempt. Let me tell you guys a little secret. I don't trust the government. I don't trust these motherfuckers. I don't trust them because I've done a lot of research. I've read a lot about JFK. I've interviewed people about JFK. That story has changed so many times over the years. Then come to find out, oh, JFK didn't want Israel to have those weapons. JFK didn't want organizations like AIPAC to exist. Oh, all the people that either the deep state or the establishment did not like. I don't trust these mofos. I don't trust them. Think about all the things that Bernie Sanders said, and Bernie Sanders is still alive. Makes you wonder what type of agreement Bernie Sanders might have made, right? Because Bernie Sanders just slid right in with the establishment after he told you to vote against those people and to end the corporate greed. And then he goes in and goes right along with those people. That dude just put out an op-ed telling people why Joe Biden needs to remain the nominee. What a sellout. What a fraud. So I don't trust them. A lot of the real OGs that were really trying to fight for the people are dead. Fred Hampton, MLK, Malcolm X, the list goes on. Or they left the country and they can't come back here. Assata Shakur. Don't trust these mofos. That's how I feel about it. I'm going to try to see if I can catch some of that press. Someone mentioned that in the chat. There's a press conference at 8:00 to see if there's any new information. But I find it strange that the shooter was in a BlackRock ad. I also find it strange this 20-year-old kid who had a whole future ahead of him, very intelligent, just out of nowhere, just goes to, how do we know he wasn't paid? How do we know someone didn't try to pay him to do this? He just walks up there, gets on the roof, Secret Service, just like whatever. The security not tight the way it's supposed to be. I don't trust these mofos. And we may never know the full truth. That's the sad part about it. Let's go to some of the comments here. Thank you for the super chat. Negro 489. Chickens coming home to roost. Malcolm X. Thank you 100 Black Roke. The attempted bump off was staged against ex-President Trump. I'm not a Trump fan other than his humor. Queer Black Socialista. Trump's getting more votes after this. I'm telling you, I'm going on vacation after the show, and I'm going to check them polls when I get back. Thank you, P.S. George Galloway said exactly what I said. The deep state does not want Trump because of Ukraine, and Trump will stop World War III. Thank you, Thomas. Oops. They set the security perimeter just shy of the best vantage point. Interesting how that happens. Thank you, Jay. Hi, Sabby. I received a notification saying the FBI is investigating this as a potential domestic terrorist incident. To me, it's like they're saying he wasn't a lone wolf. Yeah, I don't believe this dude acted alone. And you know what? This is going to cause increased security, and they're going to ramp up the police state even more. Watch. Thank you, Thomas. Weird how crooks appeared in a BlackRock commercial. What a coinky dink. Yeah, what a coincidence. Thank you, Unemployed Scholar. The U.S. election season looking like elections in other places outside of the U.S. Thank you for the super chat, Idelia. Thank you, Thomas. Ain't BlackRock the company with massive contracts to rebuild Ukraine? Weird, huh? Very weird. Fred, Sabby Colombo further investigates. I was digging. Thank you, David. BlackRock has money plans for Ukraine, and Trump said he wants out of Ukraine. Boeing is taking people out. How likely is it that BR brushed this kid? I don't know, man. I'm telling you, we may never know the full truth. Thank you, Idelia. They tried to remove Secret Service from Trump. And RFK still doesn't have Secret Service, I think. So last time I checked, he didn't. Yantra, thank you for the super sticker. Holy smokes. Thank you, Landrew. Thank you, Sabby, for speaking compassion and truth. Rachel Mad Cow brought this on. Jill Stein now more than ever. Mad Cow. Thank you, Unemployed Scholar. Is it weird that Trump got shot after he met with Orban to make peace deal, re Ukraine? Is it weird that Trump got shot after everybody was asking Joe Biden to drop out of the race? This week has been crazy. Thank you, Strong Gamer. Preach. It is the media. You speak the truth. Thank you. Thank you, Joanna. Notice who was silent with the condolences. Many leaders have come out with statements against violence, but Hillary's crickets. Oh, Hillary. Thank you, 14-year Twitch. Remember, baby, this is a republic. That's what needs to be saved from the left. And thank you, Hoopo. The kid could be a patsy, and this could have been an attempt at boosting Trump's popularity. If he accepted a deal to hand over territory to the Z team, this is a chance some won't want to pass up. Interesting. Thank you for the super sticker, Mo Morsi. Thanks, Eric. Looks like Sabby needs her own copy of the following book, Anarchism and the Black Revolution by Lorenzo Kumbo Irvin. Thank you. And thank you, Sparky. Don't forget Cynthia McKinney. She's practically exiled. Yep. And thank you, Jay. Sabby, did you see the post on X? Someone put quoting Biden saying Trump needs to be a bullseye. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Yeah, crazy times. Let's get that comment on Rockfin, Eric. Thank you. Thank you, Roger. Paul Gilman's funeral was today. The guy that said, I'm Jewish too, motherfucker. Oh, yeah, that's right, Paul. I wasn't able to make it because I have no car to get to the Bronx. Lucy and Ganja Girl went. I met Paul once when I was a man who could do stand-up, fierce NATO opponent and peace advocate. Lucy just sent me a funeral picture. If you don't mind, would you be able to post the picture in memoriam at show's end? I DM'd you his picture. I can try to do that. I don't know. Eric would have to put the picture on the VNC. We only die once, but live every day. It's important we do something in our lives beyond ourselves, friends and fam. You might think it is small, but it might be big to someone else. Each of us has a talent, a skill that we can contribute to the greater society. It is all of our responsibility to share that with society so that we can improve society. It's my hope all of us take this challenge as Paul did. R.I.P. Paul. Thank you so much for that, Roger. I can do that at the end. And thank you for the Rumble Rant, Sparky. Notice the Secret Service had snipers on another rooftop at ready to play Jack Ruby and silence the would-be assassin rather than protecting Trump. Yeah, that to me is it's very suspect. And thanks for this. That was an easy shot with a rifle. Trump was lucky, even with his timely head turn. Astonishing, there wasn't at least a security guard on the obvious line of sight nearby the rooftop. Yeah. And thank you for this, RB Ham. that kid was MK ultrafied. Mark my words. And thank you, Sparky. Maybe the three-letter agencies promised the shooter a date with Sabby if he carried out the assassination. That might work even on a seemingly reasonable mortal man. No date with Sabby. Okay, guys, one more story for you. And this one is not as heavy as the last, but interesting, I think. So it appears that rapper Eminem has written a couple of, I guess, diss tracks that feature Candace Owens, where he's kind of, attacking her and her character and all that jazz. Well, Candace Owens did respond to the diss track, and I'm going to tell you how I feel about this, about where both sides are coming from, and I also have a little bit of a message here for Eminem. Listen to this.
Because there's a lot happening here. First thing I want to say is Eminem is obviously a gay man. It's very sad that Eminem cleaned out his closet but never came out of his closet. But let's get to these lyrics. I'll read them to you. He writes or says or raps, and Candace O, I ain't mad at her. I ain't gonna throw the fact BITCH forgot she was black at her. Oh, laugh at her like them crackers she's backing after her back is turned in a cute MAGA hat with her brand new White Lives Matter shirt. Haha, nope. Or say this MAGA dirtbag in a skirt just opened the biggest can of worms on the whole planet Earth.
Let me pause there and let me chime in here. So first of all, this part here, I ain't gonna throw the fact she forgot she was black back at her. So I do want to comment on that part there, because I don't agree with Candace on a lot of things. And I do think also that Candace knows exactly what she's doing. Like, she knows what to do, how to make the money. And she has been, coached and all that kind of stuff. Like the Daily Wire, like these outlets have a lot of money. And the right, when it comes to media, they do have a lot more money than the left has. So I think that Candace knows how to sell her brand. I think she knows what is going to make her successful and make a lot of money. And that is being a black female conservative and saying the things that she has said about the black community. Candace Owens isn't stupid. I don't think that Candace Owens forgot that she was black, as Eminem quotes it. I think she's playing the game to make the money that she wants to make. That's it. I don't think it's worth people's time trying to sit up here and try to figure out why she's doing what she's doing. If you just do the math, and especially if you do independent media, you'll know why she's doing what she's doing, because she makes more money at it that way. Yes, she left the Daily Wire. Some people said now she can turn, differently or whatever. No, because there is a certain audience that she built up. So even though she left the Daily Wire, it's not like tomorrow, Candace Owens is going to be like, okay, that's it. I'm going to start saying some other things about how I feel. No, like she's going to maintain that audience. So just keep that in mind. That being said, this comment here from Eminem, she forgot she was black back at her. So I'm just going to say, Eminem, as a white person, it's really not your place to tell a black person that they forgot that they were black, or to allude to the fact that someone is not black enough. That's really not your place. So we're going to call out both, because listen, and I grew up listening to Eminem. I think a lot of you did. I listened to Eminem songs. The Eminem Show album was probably my favorite one. And I used to think that Eminem was like some radical, like when I was growing up. The Eminem Show, he had multiple songs where he called out the wars. He called out the military industrial complex. He was calling out, George Bush. But then I noticed that when Democrats took office and they were still dropping bombs, Eminem didn't want to call that out. So I realized along the way, Eminem was just a shit lib. Just a shit lib. You can call out George W. Bush for dropping bombs, but you couldn't call it out when Obama did it, and you're not calling it out now that Biden's doing it. So, things like that. This part here, laugh back at her like them. I hate these words. Sees she's back in after her back is turned in a cute MAGA hat with her brand new White Lives Matter shirt. Haha, nope, I didn't agree with that again. I think that was something Candace was doing to make a name for herself and make more money. She knew what she was doing with that. And then this part here. So I will say, like, the part where he said they were laughing back at her or whatever after the back was turned. Yeah, Ben Shapiro and those guys at the Daily Wire, they completely turned on her. Once she wasn't pro-Israel, all of a sudden it was like, okay, you got to go. And then to implement a gag order against her as well. You know, it was fucked up. Just keep it real. It was messed up. But it is not your place to tell a Black person whether or not they're Black enough. I think you need to fall back. Maybe you've been into one too many cookouts. Let's continue on.
Call her Grand Wizard, yeah, Candace, haha, or Grand Dragon, or like the national anthem, I won't stand for the tramp. Why? But I can diss her, because my plans are to get in her pants, and I'll blow my chance if I answer back to her. Oh, but I can't diss her, because his plans are to get in my pants. Ew.
So that part, get in the pants, so she is married. But you guys know how Eminem, I'm just going to say this, Eminem, your songs, stop rapping. Eminem doesn't make good songs anymore. He doesn't make good music anymore. And again, I say this, someone grew up listening to his music. The quality of his songs are not the same as they used to be. And now it seems like he's just pumping out albums just for the hell of it. And the quality is not there. Let's continue.
You disgust me. Okay, a lot going on here. I think first and foremost, I just would like to again remind people that he is in fact a struggling internally gay man. And so there's a lot happening with Eminem, and we should pray for him. On the second point, the way that we know that is because he's actually recycling things that Black women have said about me on the internet. Like, he's pretending this is original, calling me Candace. It's not. This is like he's just recycling the Black women that don't like me on the internet, have a lot of names for me, one of them being Candy O. So he's like watched what they're saying, and I guess someone who was listening to him in the booth was like, yeah, this is a good one. Yeah, drop the beat. They're really, 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 really going to like that. By the way, there's a second song he also dropped. This one's called Bad One, and the lyrics are this about me. Yeah, this whole subgenre with all these corny white rappers, I'm not a fan of it. It ain't my fault, but like sock puppets, I had a hand in it. This $1,000 in my hand is just like what Candace did when she turned her back on her own race, because I have abandoned it. Oh my, so cool. That's a tough one. That's so tough. The Black community is going to be going crazy. Not. I don't think that's going to happen at all. Actually, I'm doing this because I want to help him go viral, because this is sad. This is very sad. I want you to feel sad for Eminem, because this is just not the way for someone's career to go down the drain. And
I want to say something here else about Eminem as well. I think that, I don't know how young everyone is in the chat, but I remember when Eminem, his first album was released. I remember there were a lot of criticism from people saying this guy's trying to be like another Vanilla Ice. And that was kind of like, for those who don't know, that was a diss. that was not a compliment. Not a compliment. So there's that. But also, I think that what some people may not be aware of is that there are, songs that Eminem made saying some pretty nasty things about Black women. Now, those songs never made it to the albums that were released, but if you Google it online, you can find it. So Eminem really has no room to sit up here and talk here. Like I'm saying, like, dude, you're really the pot calling the kettle black, because you have said some things in your music that were very, very offensive about Black women. So that's just, I'll see if I can find it. Let me see.
I want us all to do our part to help make Eminem relevant again at the very least, and he can be relevant just by me speaking about him. He understands that. By the way, I did TMZ earlier. They were asking me, like, in part, though, aren't you honored that someone who is recognized as the greatest white rapper of all time is dedicating all of this time to you? And I said no, because it would have meant something if he was at his prime. As an example, Dave Chappelle, he made a really, honestly, it was kind of a hideous joke about me. I didn't think the joke itself was funny, but I did appreciate the fact that Dave Chappelle, who is the most famous comedian in the entire world at the peak of his career, was mentioning me on stage. Like when he was very sad about George Floyd and he did this whole skit and he said some awful things about me, I did have that moment where I went, wow, Dave Chappelle knows who I am. This is not that with Eminem. He is not at the peak of his career. He's at the end of it. His career should have ended like 15 years ago.
So I found it. I want to show you what he said. Now he's apologized, just FYI, he has apologized for this, but I just really think, again, Eminem should not be the one to bring this forward right now. I'll bring this back up and we'll go back to the video. Eminem apologizes for his old racist rap. See, a lot of people don't know about this. Let's go down here. It says the source has unearthed 2 old tracks, only one of which Eminem has acknowledged as his, in which he makes derogatory comments with a racial component. And I'll highlight it here. We're not going to be able to say everything. On the unacknowledged track, a singer calling himself Eminem refers to that in shh. On the acknowledged track, he raps, blacks and whites, they sometimes mix, but black girls only want your money because they're dumb chicks. Don't date a black girl. If you do it once, you won't do it twice. Black girls are dumb and white girls are good chicks. So that was Eminem. So the way I see it, he really has no room to talk. Just stop, dude.
And he keeps going. And so this is not a rapper that's at the top. He's actually doing he's going through a strategy that a lot of new rappers do, where they find out who is the big rapper and they start a beef, right? He's like, oh, nobody knows who I am, so I'm just going to start a beef with Candace Owens. And he's just fading out of the American mindset entirely. So this is what he's come up with. And I want to say this. Genuinely, the pander here is pathetic. He's literally making a plea to the public. I hate white people. That's what he's saying. He's calling white people crackers. He's using a slur against his own people, while at the same time, unironically, accusing me of doing what he's doing. He's like, she turned her back on her own race, as he turns his back on his race and calls them crackers. I've never used slurs to describe Black Americans because I don't have an issue with my race, but you very much have an issue with yours. And the other thing is, like, he doesn't even know what his audience is. Again, this feels very maybe could have done something in 2016 when the whole world was, so anti-Trump and it was the George Floyd moment. He doesn't even understand what's happening. I mean, that conversation has broken in the Black community. That's why Trump's numbers are up. Beyond that, I've been on the Breakfast Club. I've done Joe Budden. Like, Black Americans are following this podcast. They actually like me. I went viral on a few of those channels on Instagram.
Let me pause for a second. Because hold up, Candace. You went on to the Breakfast Club right before you got fired, which I'm pretty sure at that point you knew the firing was coming, right? So you went on the Breakfast Club right before you got fired. Let's not pretend like you've been going on to these shows like all along, because that was not the case. That was not the case, okay? Oh my God, Jesus Christ.
Channels the other day because of my conversation with Don Lemon. They're starting to hear what I have been saying, because back in 2016, when I was saying Black Lives Matter was a fraudulent organization, people were not ready to listen to that.
No, that's not why they brought you on their show. And I think the Don Lemon one airs this week. They brought you on their show to grow their audience. Don Lemon brought you onto his YouTube channel because he was fired from CNN and he just started his own show on YouTube and he's trying to build up his channel. Similar to like Mehdi Hassan is doing the same thing. You guys know Tucker Carlson is doing the same thing. We have a lot of these people coming from corporate media that are starting like their own like YouTube show and all that kind of stuff. But they brought you onto their channel so that they could grow their audience. That's what that is really about. That's why Don Lemon brought you on. He brought you on to grow his audience. I think she was on Mark Lamont Hill's show as well. Although I think her and Mark Lamont Hill recently had a debate before. Yeah, I don't think this is the only time her and Mark Lamont Hill had a debate. I think they had a debate before a couple years ago. But the reality is, a lot of people knew that Candace was trending because she was fired from the Daily Wire. So people were like, oh, let me try to see if I can get Candace to come on my show to grow my audience. That's how this game works, folks. And for a lot of you watching, try doing this one day and then you'll see. You'll see who really stands on principle and who's just trying to bring people on because they want to grow their audience. That's why Don brought you on. It's just the reality. Let's continue.
But then what happened was they proved that they were a fraudulent organization, and people said, I think Candace may have been trying to tell us that, and she was right, and maybe I need to listen to her rather than listen to what other people are telling me about her. And one of those people that they're not going to listen to is you, Eminem, because you're just so irrelevant. Your music isn't good anymore. And like I said, you're the one that's actually cosplaying a race that you aren't. You're desperate for Black Americans to pick up your tracks because you abandoned the audience of a lot of people who were listening to your music. I'm a trailer park kid, and then what did you do? You dunked on kids from the trailer park. You dunked on actually an entire middle class of white people who loved your music. You dunked on people in the country. For what reason? For what reason other than you misread the room? And the reason that you misread the room, rather, is because what's actually happened to Eminem is he's an out-of-touch elitist. He is.
Let's pause there. So she's right about him changing his audience or not realizing who his audience is today. That is true. When I was growing up listening to Eminem, Eminem was popular with a lot of white kids. They, liked it. Like, hey, he's talking about something, he's rapping, but he's talking about what it's like growing up in a trailer park, that kind of thing. So something that I felt was a little bit more relatable to kids that had that same experience. So that is true. If you looked at Eminem concerts, if you look them up on YouTube from back in the day, most of the people in the audience are white. So it was a lot of white kids that said, hey, there's someone that looks like me that's rapping and is actually pretty good at it. So there was that. So I think she's right about him not really knowing what his audience is anymore. So that part is kind of funny. But again, I still say, Eminem, you really, you can't be going around basically telling Black people they're not Black enough, dude. That's really out of pocket. Not your place.
This is what happens. He is now a lefty elitist. He belongs on a campaign trail with Hillary Clinton when she runs for the third or fourth time. That's what he should be doing because he's pretending to know anything about what's going on. The reality is that a lot of those people in the country that he doesn't like, take it from me, I moved to Tennessee, have a lot more in common with the people that he's trying to appeal to. I think he thinks he's appealing to the hood. They have a lot more in common because these are regular people who are suffering in different but similar ways, who recognize that the economy is not good and an Eminem track is not going to make it better. Here's the last thing I want to say about Eminem. He is a lesson to a lot of people out there that you need to know when it's time for you to retire. You don't want to retire on this note, right? Eminem is 51 years old. He has not modified his brand at all. He's not grown up. Most people know that you do have to evolve your brand, right? You can even see this as just one example. Miley Cyrus, in 2016 or maybe a little bit before, she was shaking her butt. We can't stop twerking. And now she's cleaning it up and she's singing music that's still catchy, but it's not so crass because
that's just maturity.
And she's actually giving interviews saying that, this is who I was because I wanted to break out of the Disney shell and this is who I am and this is where I'm going. And I don't think she gets it right all the time, but I can at least recognize that she's evolving. Eminem's not evolving. He still thinks that he's a 13-year-old boy who is rapping in his room and that somehow people are going to find that appealing when in reality, he's 51 years old. His daughter, or maybe he's older than 51, his daughter has just gotten married, which means that Eminem should be behaving more like a potential grandparent. He's granddad. This is granddad shady. You know what I mean? But granddad is not acting like a granddad. I'm going to need granddad to start acting like a granddad and not producing this trash to pander to the Black community. That's what I want to say on that point.
I will say, I think she's referring to the maturity level. I don't think that damn, I didn't realize he was 51. I didn't think that Eminem is really I will say he has gone through sobriety. I will say that is something that he has talked about before, that he did. You know, he was able to quit drugs and all that jazz and focus on fitness. So I will say there was a change there. But yeah, I think at some point you do have to grow up. So I agree with her with that. I don't think that Eminem has fully grown up. When she said he was 51, I had to think to myself, like, damn, because he doesn't act like he's 51 years old. It just makes you think. But I just think, again, like, I think that Eminem is struggling with his artistry. It could be just time for Eminem to just say, you know what, I'm done with the rap thing. Maybe I'm just going to produce, because the quality of the music is not the same. And I've been saying it for years, bruh. I gave you chances, but I haven't bought any Eminem albums since Eminem Show, I think, was the last one. So there's a lot of that. But again, I think that Candace knows how to play the game, and that's what she's been doing. She knows how to, okay, I know what I can say and do that's still gonna, get me a lot of money. And what she said about the brand thing, she's right about that. She's like, at some point you have to move on. You have to rebrand yourself, which is what I think she's doing right now. There's differences that's happening with her work. And I just think Eminem really has not done that. He has not. Let's get that comment from Rumble. Yeah. Let's get that. And then I can share the picture whenever you're ready, Roger. Or Eric, sorry. Thank you for the Rumble rant, unfuck the world. Why do people naively think Trump will win this time, as if he didn't win last time? In my opinion, the candidate with the best hackers wins. Why don't people expect the Democrats to cheat this time too? Thank you for this, Sparky. Again, I have no evidence of that. I have to say that on this show, but I don't. Thank you, Sparky. There were several separate groups who set out to assassinate JFK unbeknownst to each other. Each were astonished when someone beat them to it. Everybody was coming after JFK. We can pull up the picture, Eric, and I think I'm going to have to wrap up there. I'll have to do Wisconsin when I get back from vacay, because it is 7:36. I knew I would go a little bit over, but good grief. While you're doing that, I'll go to the chats here. Mason says, Eminem was done after 2004. I think I agree with you there, Mason. Well, wait a minute. Not Afraid was pretty good. I'm not afraid. That was pretty good, but I hear you. Thank you, Courtney. There's no secret that Eminem doesn't really like Black women. He had a song about it back in his early days. That's right. Robin, Candace has said many things about Black men. As for BLM, I found it very valid during its accession. Now I have not seen any evidence against BLM, but I am hearing bad things. So there's BLM Grassroots and there's BLM Global Network. The corporate part was BLM Global Network. They're the ones that took a lot of the money and turned it into like a brand instead of like advocating for victims of police brutality. Thank you, PW Project. God, you're so base. Do you have any clones, twin sisters of yourselves that are as smart as you? Asking forever a friend. Keep up the good work. Oh, thank you. Thanks so much. No clones, no twin. Thank you for that. Okay, I'll give the shout out to Paul. So there was the funeral for Paul Gilman today. Paul, 1960 to 2024. Paul is the one that stood up during the RFK and Rabbi Shmuley event. And he said, I'm Jewish too, motherfucker. That's Paul. So Paul was trying to tell him something. He says, here's a picture here. Paul says, in NATO and US imperialism power. Yeah, another strong activist there. So rest in peace, Paul. Yeah. Paul was a real one and from New York. So let's get the last rock fan and then we'll head out. Thank you for the tip on Rockfin, Roger. Knowing how much during the Obama administration the Black community loved Obama, Eminem knew he couldn't come after Obama even if he wanted to. Yet nothing stopped him from going after Joe. But actually, also, let's not forget the old tape of Eminem calling his ex-girlfriend a black bee for, breaking his heart. Members. All right, guys, that is it for me. I am officially on vacation. I will see you guys again next Tuesday. But while I am gone, there's plenty of clips for you guys to watch. So we will have clips every day. There's also 3 interviews that I recorded that you have not seen yet that you will see later on this week. One with Professor Morandi, one with Omar Badar, and the other one with Sam Husseini. So those interviews will premiere this week along with other clips. So stay tuned for that. Hope you guys have a great week. I'm getting up out of this piece. I haven't had a vacation in quite some time. So I need to have a vacation and spend some time with my family. So hope you guys have a great week. Have a good night. Keep up the fight.